The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on.
He missed the pit complete. That is crazy
As I
stuff.
said, Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
After an accident-heavy race at Barber, tensions begin to rise as the teams arrived at Road Atlanta. Dan Rash started on pole yet again with Kimmo Suominen lining up in second. In ST, James Stevenson had to work hard, but still started in first ahead of newcomer João Freitas. Setting the tone for the rest of the race, technical problems prevented Stefan Overgaard from getting his car going, and contact was made before the green flag even fell. Once it did come out, Steve Brown and Russell Clayson collected one another in turn 2 and were spat out into the runoff of 3. Both classes saw a lead change in the opening laps, but after only 10 minutes, the first full course yellow of the day was flown. When green returned, Stevenson and Zhao picked up where they left off and began dueling yet again. Freitas then took a ride in the difficult turn 5 with a spin, but thankfully the red and black car did not make contact with anything. However, the biggest twist of the day came on lap 20 when the GS leaders split a pair of ST cars. Tom Eckline and Kimmo made contact, and the MX-5 bounced into the helpless Rash and Strodbeck, destroying both cars. In all the chaos, Suominen was the only one to escape. The timing of the second yellow was perfect for pit stops, and nearly everyone came in for fuel and tires. When the field restarted, Elliot Huffman made a hard charge on Suominen, but the Finn was able to hold on. With Chris Moran electing to stay out, he led the ST field to the restart, but immediately threw away his track position when he lost control out of turn 3. In a bizarre turn of events, Eric Biggs had erroneously not been given his wave around. The number 16 MX-5 began to battle intensely with the leaders, causing ire among their ranks. The green racing was brief as Rain Otani met the tire barriers broadside in the S's, and the marshals brought out the third caution. The black and white Mustang of Kimmo led the field back to the line once again, but this time it was Ayrton Ellis who challenged him. With an incredible move around the outside of turn 1, Ellis grabbed the lead. Before the lap was out, Kimmo took his traditional spot back, and with impeccable timing, the fourth full course yellow of the day emerged. It was triggered by Ed Verras, who was tipped loose by Moran, then finished off by Christopher Thompson. Ayrton tried the same trick again at the restart, but the Finn had grown wise and held the American off. At the end of the lap, Patrick Bieri put a move on Ellis, which backed up the field, and the chain reaction led to Huffman losing his car to turn 1's unforgiving concrete walls. At the same time, Jeff Jacobs' slide in recovery was narrowly avoided by the ST leaders. This brought out the fifth and final caution. The last restart came with only 2.5 minutes left on the clock. When the green flag waved, Kimmo took off like a shot. The Finn took home win number 3 with Ayrton Ellis and Patrick Bieri both grabbing their first GS podiums. And ST Thomas Torp's incredible run came to an unceremonious end when a mistake in turn 4 sent the number 78 crashing out of second place. Freitas took the gray car spot, but the very next lap he threw it away once again in the despised turn 5. While Stevenson ran away with the lead and took his third win in a row, second remained up for grabs, so Arthur Chan stepped up to the plate and just barely held off an aggressive Josh Loitz. The crazy ups and downs of round 4 left spectators with a race to remember, but the season plunges on. Now the drivers go from the Mid-South to the Midwest as we arrive at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio. Welcome to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, home of Round 5 in the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series, broadcast live on the Global Sim Racing Channel. I'm your host, Joe Peak. With me in the booth is the charming Richard Losper. Welcome, Richard.
Hi, Joe. Hi, viewers. Glad to be here.
As always am I. It's usually great races here with the CESCS. Also with us, we have Giancarlo Lenzi as our director. And then we have Sean Ambrose in the background who's going to be spotting for us today, feeding us information. Well, Richard, I have to admit, being here is a bit personal for me since this is my home state. There's a handful of drivers in the series who could also call this their home track, but Rich, there's been a lot of famous names around here over the years. Tell us a little bit about this circuit and what makes it unique.
Certainly, Joe. It is a track that I personally love as well. It's a technical track, there's no doubt about it. It's up and down in various places. 2.25 miles in length, 13 corners with some beautiful names like the Keyhole, the Madness, Thunder Valley, etc. We have today a 90-minute race here, and it's going to be a great race, I'm pretty sure. The field is a little smallish, but nevertheless, I'm pretty sure we'll have a great race. One thing that's unique about this in terms of the starting is the fact that they start in the middle of the back straightaway and they finish at the normal start-finish line. So we're expecting a great race here. As far as the track layout itself is concerned, when we show the track guide, you will see just how difficult this track is to negotiate. Back to you, Joe.
Yeah, it's very much a tricky one, and it tends to divide drivers who either love it or seem to hate it. But let's hop over the championship and take a look at what's going on over there. Over on the GS side, currently, Kimmo Suominen continues to lead, although Dan Rash is still hot on his heels. After last race, he's dropped back a fair bit, 27 points back. Then in third, we have German Afanador on 121 points, 62 points back, so there's quite a gap to the rest of the field, but German's been doing a very good job of just racking up those places. Patrick Bieri has jumped up quite a bit and is currently in fourth. Then, meanwhile, in fifth, we have Russell Clayson with 102 points and 81 points behind the leader. What's the ST situation looking like, Richard?
Well, Joe, James Stevenson leads the ST division. He has, I guess we could say, he has dominated the series to this point. Tom Ecklein. Now, Tom Ecklein is not one of the faster drivers, but a really steady driver. He's in second place on 108 points. James Stevenson being on 171 points. So that's a whopping 63 points back. Eric Biggs, who has really done very well this season, is in third place on 106 points. Then we have Stefan Morien on 106 points as well. They both 65 points back. And in fifth place here, we have, in fact, there's three of them in third place. Matthew Reinhold is also on 106 points. So there's a big battle going on for third place amongst the last three guys there, Joe.
Pretty incredible stuff considering we're now 4 rounds out of the way that we've got that many guys tied for third. Just shows you how competitive it is in this series. But we do have a lap guide around here to kind of show your way around, as Richard mentioned earlier. So we're going to cue that up, and I believe Kevin Brown is going to take us around in the GSRC Mustang. All right, we're getting ready to take a lap around Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course with our very own Kevin Brown in the GSRC Mustang. Coming on the front straightaway here. It's not too long of a straightaway, but you can be vulnerable if you don't get a good exit here. Coming up to the first turn, you're just going to dab the brakes a little bit. It's a very fast left-hander, a little blind. Main thing is you want to get a very good exit, but not dip your wheels in the grass because that can send you into the tire barrier on the left. Because you're coming down this long straightaway. If you don't get fast enough out of there, you're going to be very vulnerable into the keyhole. Hard braking. This is a long, patience-trying turn, 180 degrees. There's a little bit of a crest early on. Get on the power as soon as you can, taking you onto the longest straightaway of the track. Now, Mid-Ohio is obviously very unique because the start-finish line for the first start is right here. It's that little blue booth on the left. Going across it now. Then you're going to come down to China Beach, hardest braking zone of the entire course. Right-hander downhill. You don't want to go off here. Many of the guys have lost their car in that sand pit. Then you got the entry to Madness, this left-hander which has a huge crest, very blind. Down into this right-hander, a lot of twisty, very slow turns in this portion of the course. Be careful on that curb on the left. You can see it can unsettle your car. You're going to turn right and have a bit of a curved braking zone. It's tricky. And another blind corner into Thunder Valley. You want to get on the power as soon as you can, get the car as straight as you can over there, or else you can lose it. then a little bit of a bend to the right, get close to that barrier as you can, then chuck it over that curb on the left, and you come into the carousel, which is a double apexer as Kevin has taken it, though there are multiple lines through here. Then you come through this left-hander, don't get too much of that curb, or you can unsettle the car again, and across the start-finish line. It always amazes me how quickly Kevin can hustle that Mustang around some of these courses. Really incredible speed behind a wheel. But let's talk about some of the stories of today, Richard, because we've got quite a few of them. This series has been just hot with controversy and other things. The big thing, obviously, up at the front is that Dan Rash, who we're used to seeing topping the time charts and topping the points, has really been floundering this season. We've seen mistakes and just bad luck and all kinds of stuff get in his way.
Yeah, Joe, I personally think that Dan Rash is, for once, he's being pushed by another driver in Kimmo Suominen. And Kimmo has shown that he can take the lead and hang on to it. And Dan has had to extend himself to keep up with Kimmo and to try and pass him. He's done that successfully a couple of times, but it does show when you push yourself to to your limits, you can make mistakes.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen drivers in the past who can challenge him, such as Brian Strodbeck, guys with some speed. But really, it's I think the difference with Kimmo is that not only has he got the speed, but he shows up consistently week in and week out. I mean, I don't think we've had a week yet without these two at a race, so they've really been banging heads every time we've shown up. Meanwhile, on the ST side, one of the stories you mentioned, Richard, was three-way tie for third in the points. Very unusual situation for these guys.
Yes, indeed. And, apart from James Stevenson, who is way ahead in the points standings, we've now got Eric Biggs, Stefan Morian, and Matthew Reinl battling for third place. Now, these guys are going to, it remains to be seen. We know that Stefan Morian, of the three, Stefan Morian should be the fastest. I've raced against him just this week a few times at Lime Rock Park, and he's shown quite a turn of speed there. But don't discount Eric Biggs and Matthew Reinl. They are very good drivers, and they're going to challenge him hard for that third position. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these guys go around today, Joe.
Very much so, and I really wouldn't count out Eric Biggs. He was on course for a possible win at Barber about a month ago, and I think if it weren't for his pit strategy just being a few minutes short, he could have held off James Stevenson, but such is the way racing goes. Back on the GS side, another one of the stories, one of the new guys, Patrick Bieri, we expected speed from him, and although it took him a while, he's now fourth in the championship, and he's already got himself a podium in his rookie year, so he's looking very good.
Yes, he is. And do not forget that there are other drivers in there as well. Travis Mim did show that, I think it was at the first race at Daytona, that he could actually lead a few laps as well. So he's in there. Our good friend Russell Clayson has every chance. And then there's Randolph Chenoth, who's also shown a really good turn of speed. So a whole bunch of drivers who could surprise the top two there, Joe.
I'm glad you mentioned Russell Clayson, because this is an interesting story between him and Steve Brown. I'm trying to see if Steve is... I don't believe Steve is here today, unfortunately. But that's something that's really heated up this season compared to previously. And really started back in Season 3, if anything. Those two have been butting heads quite a bit. And if you're new to this series, back in Season 3 at Watkins Glen, Russell Clayson had not won a race yet, and Steve Brown had not won a race in that season himself. But on the final restart, Russell Clayson had jumped the start controversially and avoided the penalty somehow. The marshals decided not to give it to him and let him keep his win. So very unusual, and obviously kind of started the friction. And since then, there's been some contact, including 2 weeks ago, which you saw in the highlight video prior to the broadcast there, that think friction has really just started to kind of pick up between those two, Richard.
Yes, and without a little bit of controversy, what would motor racing be? It happens in real life and it happens in sim racing a lot. So it's a pity that Steve Brown is not here today, because I would have actually liked to have seen that continue, Joe.
Yeah, I would too, definitely. It's they certainly make things interesting, although I hope it doesn't come too much to blows between them. So let's talk about some of the other faces around here. Unfortunately, we don't have Yao Freitas, who was here 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta. He was one who seemed to be able to challenge James Stevenson. Somebody who has faced off with Stevenson and actually won, which is unusual, is Joshua Loitz, Richard.
Correct. Joshua Lloyd's, he did pick up an opportunistic win, I believe, because there was some extremely bad luck for James Stevenson at Daytona, I believe, and he was forced to park the car. But since then, James has just dominated, as we've said before. However, today, we've got James Stevenson once again on the pole position, but Joshua Lloyd's right behind him. Now, I raced against Joshua Lloyd's just the other day again at Lime Rock Park. He is fast, so I'm expecting him to present a challenge today. One of the guys we did not mention, Joe, just quickly, is our own Ayrton Ellis in the GS class. Now, he's not there today, but he's been really doing some wonderful things in this class and has climbed up the rankings. He's not showing in the top 5. He didn't expect to, but if I remember correctly, a couple of weeks ago, he got a 3rd place.
Yes, and that was actually his very first podium in the GS class. Even though he's been incredibly fast in the ST cars whenever he's raced in the MX-5s, he really hasn't shown the speed much, at least in his very first season in the Mustang. So when he hopped over this season, we kind of didn't expect too much from him. And then suddenly, he just started to come alive as his race pace slowly improved. And even though his qualifying isn't quite there, he really has managed to just work his way through things as these races go on and take advantage of the fact that they are endurance races. You did mention that he's moved his way up in the point standings. He is, in fact, 6th. So he was just outside of the top 5 that we mentioned earlier. Another person that's going to be a bit of a wild card for ST is Denny Locke, who is actually currently qualified slower than our pole sitter. So he could possibly get in the way of these cars. And we've seen this at a few other tracks, Richard, that sometimes some of the Mustangs aren't the faster class.
Yes, that's true. Denny Locke, he is actually scored at the moment behind James Stevenson in the standings at this point, although we must say that the GS qualifying is still continuing. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes today. Another name we should mention is Stefan Overgaard. Now, Stefan Overgaard has had some connection issues and various other failures of his setup and hasn't been able to produce his best. But I do know that he's very, very fast at this track, and I'm expecting to see some really good things from him today, Joe.
Yeah, he really hasn't been able to capitalize on some of the opportunities that he saw in Season 3, where he was either leading or looking for podiums. This season seems to be just a bit of a bogey season for him, so hopefully he can start to turn that around. One thing that I want to touch on, Richard, is the driver aggression that we've seen in Season 4. It's really, we tend to expect it in the opener at Daytona, which we did in spades. But throughout the rest of the season, it really hasn't abated. It's just been a constant flow of guys really making aggressive moves and really sticking their nose in sometimes that they probably shouldn't.
Absolutely. And dare I say, one of the biggest aggressors has been Dan Rash. I don't know you know if you've been watching some of the passing maneuvers that he's made. It's been he's got away with virtually every single one of them, but he has left a trail of guys that I guess would not be all that happy behind him, Joe.
Yeah, I was gonna say his luck might be running out at some point. He certainly almost got himself into trouble a few times. At least he did towards the end of last season as well, and when he had a run-in with Ayrton Ellis at Laguna Seca, and then he also ran in with, I believe it was Ed Verras at Lime Rock Park, and managed to win both of those still, but not without a bit of bent sheet metal along the way. So keep an eye out on the drivers and kind of watch out for who is possibly trying to make passes that are not in the wisest of spots. Speaking of passes, though, Richard, this course is a bit odd in that you've got the first half where you're really going to get some chances to try and make some moves, and then the second half where you really shouldn't be trying to unless you're truly desperate.
Yeah, that's true. Um, the first half of the track, you've got a fairly long straightaway leading into that mini carousel there, and a lot of guys will attempt passes in there. In fact, it's a really good passing zone. Down the back stretch there, at the end of that straightaway, there's a good opportunity to pass as well, and you will see a lot of passing maneuvers happening along there. But then you get into the really tricky part of the course where you have lefts and rights, and down into Thunder Valley where you have that blind right-hander. Those are not places that you want to be going too wide or trying to pass, although I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing some of that today, Joe.
Yeah, all it takes is a mistake from the person in front, and sometimes you just gotta capitalize, especially if you're in traffic. And that too is probably going to be a factor today, I think, in that second part of the course, where you're going to see Mustangs get caught up behind MX-5s, or even possibly vice versa, because from what I understand from a bit of our information, the MX-5s are actually just a little bit faster than the Mustangs through what's called madness, which is that technical portion that you mentioned earlier. So keep an eye out for cars trying, or especially Mustangs, trying to get something done before they get through China Beach, and trying to get out of the way, or you just make sure that they're not within a bunch of MX-5s when they start to go through madness, because that really just complicates things as they go between classes. But that's the nature of mixed class endurance racing anyways. It looks like qualifying is just wrapping up now, Richard, so we're going to let people finish hot laps, and then we'll start to go through the qualifying grid once people start to get themselves onto the grid here. So as we wait for them to do that, I have to ask, Richard, who are your picks for each of the classes today? Who do you think is going to be able to run home with it?
Okay, it's a difficult one. I'm going to say that in the GS class, I fancy Dan Rash to win today. He's on the pole position, or shall we say provisional pole at this stage. He's going to get a lot of challenge from Kimo, no doubt, but I think that his experience at this track will probably carry him through, and I hope it does. He needs a good win to make things better for the remaining races. In the ST class, James Stevenson would be the pick, but I do hope that we see one of the other drivers come up and challenge him, Joe, because he's been having it all his own way too much.
Yeah, we want to see an exciting race out here. I guess since you picked Dan, I'm going to have to go with Kimo. And honestly, he even though he's looking a little bit off of the pace from Dan today, we'll get through to the qualifying times in a second here. Kimo really has just taken to this series like, a fish into water. He has made very few mistakes, and when he does, he's able to come back from them, really bounce back, and just been incredibly impressive with his patience and technical skill behind the wheel, and just be able to rifle off those laps. As for the ST class, since you picked James, it's hard to really figure anybody else. I know Josh Loitz is one that could be up there. I'm going to try and maybe throw my card into really one of the more unlikely names. Arthur Chan has had a pretty good week 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta, and so I think maybe he can overcome his bad luck and maybe do something today. But it looks like they're actually lining up on the grid now, so I'm going to start to go through the grid here as we have qualifying done and dusted. Up in the GS class, the first 10 are Dan Rash on pole with a 135.4 lap. Very good stuff. Then behind him, finishing up the front row, is Kimmo Suominen with a 135.7, so a whole 3/10 separating them, which is very unusual. Those two are usually incredibly close on time. Then we've got Patrick Bieri, who is on his momentum, coming up in third. Then in fourth, we have Travis Mim. Then fifth, it's Andre Trego. Sixth is German Afanador, currently sitting third in the championship. Russell Clayson is behind him, his teammate. Those two will probably be working together. Randolph Chinnoth is in eighth. Then Alexis Molina is in ninth. And Jeff Jacobs in his 10th. What's the rest of the GS class looking like, Richard?
All right, as we see the pace car leading them off, we have in 11th place James Alex Brown. 12th is Tim Brokaw. And 13th is Denny Locke. There are a couple of guys who have not, 3 of them who have not shown up or have not posted a qualifying lap. Going into the ST class really quickly, we've got James Stevenson on the pole with a 1 minute 39.7. Joshua Lloyds is second with a 140.4. So you're looking at 7/10 between them. So that's why I picked James Stevenson. Arthur Chan, your wild card, is third. Hang Hotel fourth. And in 5th place, Stefan Overgaard. Back to you, Joe.
Then in 6th, it's Marco Mogren, who has had a fairly good showing so far in this series, as well in the Blondies MX5 World Tour, which is another race that we broadcast. Then behind him, it's Ed Varas, followed up by Tom Eckline, currently second in the championship, a little bit down the standings, but as you can see, that doesn't stop someone from climbing up. Then Wes Eric is behind him, followed by David Wammond, and then finally rounding out the field is Philip Carpenter, 27th and last, so we'll have to see what he can do from there. As you said, it's a fairly small field today, and I'm sorry, Philip Carpenter is actually 26, I believe. Fernando Fireball is one that we didn't mention. I believe he is starting today, even though he didn't put a qualifying lap in, as well as Chris Duffy, who was late to the field, did not get to put a qualifying time in. He'll be coming up in the rear of the GS class. Now, they're getting pretty close to the start here as they're going through Madness and coming towards Thunder Valley right now. Dan Rash is leading them through. This is really going to be one of those tricky parts when they get to have interclass traffic, because there's just this short blast up to this very fast right and then left-hander over this crest, very fast blind crest. So you'll see some guys get caught out, maybe create some picks between classes. The pace car is taking them around the carousel now, so we're getting ready to line up. Going to go to, or I'm sorry, actually, they're not starting at this part. This is you'll get ready to see one of the unusual parts of Mid-Ohio. This is traditional how they start. They are not getting the green flag right now, even though they are going past the start-finish line, Richard. They're going to actually start on the backstretch.
That is correct. I was about to jump in there when you were talking about the start. So even though iRacing has called the green flag is not going to take place. They, in fact, forming up 2 by 2 right now, and they will start in the middle of that back stretch there. So they're getting ready, and it's going to be fun. I'm getting excited. So back to you, Joe.
I am too, especially with these first few corners, with it being on the backstretch. Madness, China Beach, actually, which is turn 4, is going to be the very first corner that they go to, and it's going to be a very intriguing one, because if you can hang around the outside, you could possibly pull a pass up there. Now they're coming down to the start-finish line now. They're going to get the green flag from the marshal any moment now as they head towards that little kink where the start-finish line is located. We're waiting with bated breath as that green flag is just hanging there waiting to be waved. And there's the green flag. They're off, taking that off down the back straightaway. Dan Rash gets a fairly good start. Patrick Bieri is very good. Kimmo Suominen not very well, but he starts to make up some time under braking, and he gets back into his second position. Everyone seems to be fairly uneventful, very patient, which is good to see. What's the start of the ST class like, Richard?
Well, they're about to take off. They've just passed over the line. And we see James Stevenson with Joshua Lloyd right next to him on the outside. As they come into the first corner, Josh Lloyd starts to pinch a little bit. James Stevenson actually backs out of it and then comes back at him. Josh Lloyd's got the inside going into that very technical section, and James Stevenson has allowed Josh Lloyd to go through. So that's the start. Behind them, we've got Arthur Chan in third place and Hang Ho Tao. Joe?
Very opportunistic stuff in that blue and white Corona car of Josh Loitz. Tries to take the lead earlier. Honestly, this is going to be his best opportunity, Richard, I think, with the pace that James has. All James has to do is now wait for possibly just pit stops or a mistake from Josh.
Yes, but you can't wait around too long because there are other fast drivers around. Arthur Chan is already catching up to both of them. Although Arthur goes a little bit wide there, maybe that's just the line he likes to take. Hang Ho Tao takes a more regular line in fourth place there. Now, who do we have in fifth? Marco Mogren. And here we have a challenge from the number 14 car in Stefan Overgaard as they go into turn one. Marco backs out of it and gives the place to Stefan. So good on Stefan for making up one place already, Joe.
Yeah, and I kind of don't blame Marco for that because that's not typically a passing zone. It's very fast left-hander in that first corner. So with it being so early on, I think it's wise to just kind of let him have that and try to race another day. In fact, though, it looks like Marco's dropping back quite a bit from Stefan. In fact, he puts a couple wheels off. Doesn't look like that hurt him too much, but he's now got Ed Verras behind him. And with that draft, he could be sucked in.
Yeah, he's not that comfortable on this track at this point in time. We have a look at his car. His car looks fine. There's no problem there. I just think he hasn't had enough practice, perhaps, in at this track. He's fairly new to a lot of these tracks, having just come from the Mazda Cup Series, where they don't run most of the purchase content. But anyway, going forward, there seems to be three-way battle there with Lloyd's. Hang Ho Tao making a move on Arthur Chan along the outside, which is not the best place to do it. And they come into Thunder Valley now, and they all go single file once again. So at this point in time, everybody behaving themselves, shall we say, with the only mover at this point in time having been Joshua Lloyd and Stefan Overgaard.
And things are getting interesting. We've got a spin in the carousel. That's Chris Duffy. And thankfully, James Stevenson was able to get by just before he spun. But now he's held up everyone behind him. This is going to help James quite a bit. Chris Duffy seems to be struggling for pace around this track. And now that's put Arthur Chan into the clutches of Hang Ho Tao behind him. Hang takes a little bit of a peek into turn one, but then decides against it. These guys are very, very close together. And I see Marco going off once again on the exit to turn one. Is Hang going to take a look into the turn two portion here? He's looking on the inside, but he's not quite close enough as they start to brake. He gets very close to the rear bumper of Arthur. Now all he has to do is get a decent enough exit, Richard, and just utilize that draft down the back straightaway.
That's right. Sorry, we're getting some information from the director there, Joe.
I believe he's talking about how we are currently on the roll bar of Hang Ho Tao, looking at from inside his car, seeing what he has seen. And he's taking a look on the inside of Arthur. In fact, he makes a move, and there's touch. There's contact made between the two cars, but they are able to run away with it. That's very close. This is very early on to be so aggressive, Richard.
Yeah, very light turn, but it was there for the taking, Joe. He did get on the inside of Arthur there and was committed to making the move, and then Arthur came back at him. So there's a lot of action as Arthur goes wide. In fact, Arthur's right off the track there. Mr. Unfortunate has lost it again, unfortunately. And now the position belongs to Hang Ho Tao.
And I'm getting word that Patrick Bieri had a spin. He's currently in 7th place. He seems to be back on pace, even though he had a bit of contact with the wall. You can see a little bit of damage on that right front of that Mustang. Right now he's got Alexis Molina behind him. So that's bad stuff from Patrick Bieri, throwing away a possible podium today unless he can really start to make up some time.
And a lot of action happening in the ST class still. We'll go to GS in a moment. Joshua Lloyd had some light contact with Patrick Duffy, who was the slow GS driver. That has caused him to take evasive action, and he's just lost 2 positions to looks like Hang Ho Tao and Stefan Overgaard. Or is that, yes, Hang Ho Tao and Stefan Overgaard, Joe?
And this is exactly what James is going to be wanting, Richard, because all these cars getting tightened up as we see Stefan Overgaard start to take a look on Hang Ho Tao, and this is for second place currently. As these guys battle, this is going to allow James to just continue to run away with things, and it looks like Stefan's going to be able to hold the outside possibly. He's better under braking into China Beach. He's still got the inside as they switch back into Madness now, but now it looks like Hang Ho Tao was able to hold the momentum on the outside. It's going to switch back once again. Hang Ho Tao has the inside on this time. Is he going to be able to get it done as Josh Loitz is getting into the mix? Too wide through Madness, coming towards Thunder Valley. Stefan Overgaard is the one that loses out as Josh Loitz moves past him, and good stuff from those guys to keep it clean, but very hairy.
I tell you what, Stefan was in a bad place all the way around there, mostly on the outside, not the place you want to be. If you're trying to make a move, you should try and make it on the inside, although he's now trying another move on Joshua Loitz, thinks the better of it. He's very good around here, Joe. I expect him to be getting up past these guys at some point in time. But I think we best go and have a look and see what's happening in the GS side of things. If you don't, there's no more action happening here, and there is a lot of action, but let's have a look at GS.
Well, you'll have to keep us updated if anything happens over there, Richard. I'm popping over to the GS side, and currently Dan Rash is actually being kept in check by Kimmo Suominen, who's still in second place. He's not terribly far back. It was less than a second less time by the line. But Dan Rash has been leading the field around, and these two have really checked out. Travis Mim holds third, but he's a whole 4.5 seconds back. And then well behind him is German Afanador, just quietly ticking off those laps with his teammate Russell Clayson bringing up behind him. So it doesn't look like there's really any good battles going on here. Let's hop back to the ST class, Richard,
yes,
and follow
Stefan
that.
making another move around the outside on Josh Loitz. A little bit of crazy stuff going on here. I can't understand Stefan's motivation there. The outside is very risky at that point. However, he has fallen back into line. Meanwhile, Josh Loitz, whose car thankfully is okay after that touch with Chris Duffy, he's looking to challenge Hang Ho Tao in second place there. So Stefan Overgaard, by the way, is under attack from Marco Mogren, who seems to be getting better and better as the laps roll by, getting to grips with the track here. So the action for second place is anyone's choice here between these four cars, Joe.
With James Stevenson in the race, that's about the best you can hope for, it seems like. You know, as far as Stefan trying that outside move, I have to say I've attempted that, and it is doable. It's a bit unique in the way that the course is laid out and the way the hills are. You can make it work. It's difficult. He obviously wasn't able to, and I think it helped that Hang was kind of wise to that, knew to just keep his momentum going. That's really the key there if you're under attack. And speaking of Hang Ho Tao, he is currently under attack from Josh Loitz once again. As Loitz comes up the outside into turn 2, he's going to be well past him into the braking. He goes very wide to make sure that he doesn't get run into, and that gives the position back to Hang Ho Tao coming onto the back straightaway, but he's going to pull the switch back now when he's got a little bit better momentum. He's got the inside, which is what he needs. Now Stefan Overgaard is getting back into it too, but is he going to make it 3 wide? I wouldn't advise it this early on. We've seen problems with that before. He decides to hold back as these two try to settle things. They get very close to each other as they come towards the braking zone of China Beach. Who's going to be able to hold on? It looks like Josh Loitz has got it this time as Stefan Overgaard guts. It looks like he gave a little bit of a tap to the back of Hang Ho Tao. Now he's got Marco Mogren on the outside of him, and Mogren might just be able to get by Stefan Overgaard here. It looks like he's got the inside into that next right-hander, but he has to back out because he's got a little bit of a bobble there, Richard. Woof.
Great racing from these four. All of them, as we mentioned before, in contention for that second place. Hang Ho Tao has had to give up the place eventually after the titanic battle with Josh Loitz, and Josh Loitz now has claimed second position. Stefan Overgaard was always in there, kind of judging whether he should move in on these two or not. So, and Marco Mogren has just sat back and stuck his nose in as well. So these guys are going to provide some great racing for us, hopefully throughout the next 40, 50 minutes, whatever it is. In fact, it's probably more like 80 minutes to go still, Joe.
Yeah, there's quite a bit left on the clock. I'm seeing only an hour and 18 left to go. And I say only, not intentionally, because it's definitely not only, it's a long race. Let's hop over to GS class, because I see that Russell Clayson has really closed up on the back of German Afanador. Travis Mims ahead of them, but he's really checked out, currently holding third position. This battle between German and Russell is for fourth and fifth. They are very similar looking. I know if you're probably confused between these teammates, Russell is in the purple roofed car, but these gray and red cars look very similar, so if it's hard to tell, that's the way to do it. Russell has lost a little bit of touch with him, but he's really been hunting him down slowly but surely. Now, Russell has earned the nickname as Russell Cannonball Clayson because he is known for his deep, deep braking, and if he wants to make a pass happen, he usually is able to make it happen.
Yes, that's right. He is very, very close to German Afanador right now. And I was just looking up ahead of them. We've got Dan Rash leading, and Kimmo Suominen in his normal role, Joe, a kind of a stalking position where he just sits behind and susses things out, as they say in the vernacular, and has a bit of a look at the moment now. I don't know whether he's playing cute here or he just doesn't have the pace that Dan has, but the battle here between Russell and German Afanador is definitely hotting up, Joe.
Especially now that Andre Trago in 6 is starting to throw himself into the mix. It makes me wonder if possibly German is holding these two guys up, that maybe he doesn't quite have the pace. We see Russell getting pretty close to the back. He's about just more than a car length behind his teammate right now as they head through Thunder Valley. So really keeping everybody on his toes at this point. You mentioned, as we continue to watch this, I just want to keep our cameras on this battle, but I want to talk about Dan Rash and Kimmo Suominen briefly, because you mentioned Kimmo holding back. I kind of wonder if Dan needs to start to learn from this and let Kimmo run the first stint. Let Kimmo break the air for him and just hold on to his tires and maybe observe the way that Kimmo's doing, and maybe it'll help him, because at this point, Kimmo, I believe, is 3 for 4 as far as wins go. So whatever he's doing, his strategy is working.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, Dan did do that at one or two of the races, particularly at Daytona. He trailed Kimmo for a large part of the race. And also at Mosport, I believe, he was following Kimmo most of the way. And those are two races that Kimmo did win. But Dan Rash has taken the bit between his teeth at this track, thinking, well, I'll get out there and lead and try and get away from him. But that's not going to happen. Kimmo is just very, very steady. You hardly see his car go offline or even, spin a little bit or brush tires or walls or anything like that. He's a great, great driver, Kimmo, and Dan, being a great driver himself, knows that, and he's going to have to pull out all the stops to get a win here, Joe.
Well, meanwhile, behind them, we're going to have to change the name from a Truly train to a German train, because apparently he's got Patrick Bieri also closing up on these guys. So now we've got 4 cars in a row, all vying for that 4th position. And Patrick, having qualified in 3rd, I have to imagine he's really going to start to make things interesting. He's not quite close enough yet, though. Everyone's kind of holding station, which is typical with these Mustangs. Not a whole lot of passing with how heavy these cars are. It's difficult to maneuver them in traffic. So let's hop over back to the ST class and see how things are going. Real quick, I do see that James Stevenson has got his typical Vettel-esque lead with quite a bit, almost 10 seconds, 8 seconds it looks like last time by at the line. But behind him, Josh Loitz is continuing to try to reel him back in. Doesn't seem to be doing so quite successfully, but at least, Richard, he's pulled away from that battle a little bit as Hang Ho Tao has dropped back from him.
Yes, indeed. So he's got a bit of a lead on Hang Ho Tao. The big news here is the fact that Stefan Overgaard has been overtaken by Marco Mogren. Stefan's still right in there, and maybe Stefan allowed him to get by. We didn't actually see what happened there when we were on the GS group. However, he is falling back slightly from Hang Ho Tao as Marco Mogren is starting to look towards challenging Hang Ho Tao for that 3rd place. Josh Loitz now seems to have shaken them off a little bit, But a lot of racing still to go as we see Hang Hotel and Marco going to the outside, but he's not close enough to make anything happen there. As these guys go down that straightaway, and we'll see what happens. At the moment, they just in line, Joe.
Now, if you were watching, Marco did a very smart thing coming through that second corner there. It looked like he went a little deep, but he really set himself up for the exit, really straight lined it. And you can see now he's starting to really push Hang Ho Tao as he's got a good run on him. He's not close enough to make anything happen, though he takes a look. But that's really going to set him up so that he can get nice and close. The other thing that I found interesting was that Hang went defensive into that second corner, which to me struck me as unusual, Richard. I didn't think that Marco was nearly close enough at that point to try and attempt anything. I feel like that's going to hurt Hang if he's going defensive so early.
Well, actually, Joe, I tend to disagree with you a little there. That corner, if you read about it, there are a number of different lines you can take into that corner. Some like to go very, very close to the actual apex of the corner, and others like to go wide and kind of try and straight line it as much as they can, as you mentioned. So a lot of different lines available in that particular corner, and maybe Hang Hotel just likes to take a line very close to the apex. So we'll see how it all goes as Marco consistently is challenging and then falling back a little. And these guys, Joe, have now caught back up to Josh Lloyd's again, so he has not managed to get away from them at all.
The draft obviously coming into play once again, as it does on the first half of this track, as they break for that slow second corner, that hairpin, and you see them come around in a line onto the back straightaway. Yeah, that's one of the things that I really love about this track, Richard, is the variance in lines, and it really makes for great racing because the guys are trying all different kinds of things. You can make different sort of pass attempts stick, and it's not just a single file racing, as Hang Hotel is starting to look on Josh Lloyd's now as he wants that second place back in his grasp. Not quite close enough as Josh is able to hold him off, but that allows Marco Mogren to start to throw himself into the mix. And once again, all four cars are nose to tail, as we have seen for most of this race. So really good stuff from these guys. And it doesn't look like anybody's going to be able to try anything at this point. I did see word that Patrick Bieri is continuing to pressurize Andre Trego, so let's hop back up there really quick and see what's going on there. It looks like they've spaced out a little bit. And actually, I'm sorry to jump around a lot, but I see that we also, we're getting word that there's a battle between Tom Eckline and Wes Eric, which is for the 7th and 8th positions in ST class. Now these are still valuable. Obviously they're a little ways back, but Richard, those points can pile up if you can just keep out of trouble and keep finishing consistently in the top half. So Tom does have something at play in here to try and get by Wes.
Absolutely, Joe. Remember that Tom Eckline is currently second in the championship, which for a shall we say, a mid-pack driver, just means that what he's done has been, keep it steady, keep it clean, and get some points. So he's got everything to race for. So, maybe some of the more glamorous guys up front, as we see Marco challenging once again on Hang Hotel, going to the outside once again. I tell you what, the outside line is really fancied at this particular. They're side by side, and Josh Lloyd's is right in front of them. So this is going to go on all race, and I hope that it does, Joe.
I hope our voices can survive it as Hang Hotel finally gives up the ghost, and now he's got Stefan Overgaard behind him, and they spread out just a little bit. I mean, as good as the racing is to have them fighting each other, this really is going to neutralize the fight for first, as James Stevenson now has a full 10-second lead over these guys. He's all by himself, and in fact, Chris Duffy is still ahead of him. So Chris Duffy has managed to pick up the pace a little bit here. Hopefully he doesn't make more mistakes and get in the way yet again. Well ahead of him is Tim Brokaw, so we don't have traffic coming into play yet. But speaking of which, actually, let me hop over back to Dan Rash and Kimo and see what they're doing, because at some point I have to imagine they're going to start to run into traffic, because I see Ed Verras not too far up the road from them.
Exactly right. And keep an eye on that behind them, that 4-car train we were talking about. They have really concertinaed now, and I tell you what, they virtually nose to tail. So this is where we need to be looking, because there's going to be some action here in the not too distant future, I would imagine, Joe.
I think action is all these guys' middle name currently. Hang Ho Tao seems to be the closest of anybody as he's trying to hunt down Marco Mogren. I don't think any of these guys are going to sit in one spot for more than a lap or two the way that they're fighting. And Hang is taking a look on the inside coming up to turn 4, but he's definitely not close enough to try and make a move. He closes heavily under braking. And
I was talking, Joe, can I just break in? I was talking about the GS class.
Oh.
The 4 guys with Patrick Bieri, Andrew Trago, Gerben Afanador, and Russell Clayson. They are nose to tail. We need to be looking at this at the moment, Joe.
Oh, apologies there. Yeah, we haven't checked in on these guys in a while. It seems to be a bit of a pressure cooker. There's not as many dives as Andre Trago actually starts to take a look on the inside of German Afanador, but again, he's also not close enough. That could also possibly be a defensive move on Patrick Bieri. He takes another look coming into that left-hander, but oof, he gets chopped off, and he has a bit of a bad exit out of that left-hand corner, which puts Patrick Bieri back on the backside of that CED car, the blue and white and black car with the skulls all over it. I love that paint job. That's Tim Brokaw's work, who does a lot of fabulous paint jobs around on these cars around this course. And it looks like they're actually coming upon Arthur Chan right now as they come through Thunder Valley, and it looks like that compromises German Afanador, who at some point along the line has been passed by Russell Clayson. We missed that somewhere, Richard.
And we have Patrick Bieri making a move now on Andre Trago and pulls it off as they go in with poor old Arthur Chan right in the middle of them at this point in time. Arthur now goes wide so that they can all pass. That has broken up the train just a little bit, but the action will no doubt be on again once they all get past Arthur and start to form up in the train again, Joe.
And as you saw on your screen, there was a very close moment between Mim and Trago as they went through turn 1. Oh, and Trago goes very wide. He's off into the gravel at turn 2. Mim is going to get by him. That's a position loss for Trago. After a very difficult end to the last lap, he looks like he sealed it off. We're going to look at the replay now to see exactly what happened to Trago. It looks like he was trying to get by Arthur Chan and just missed his braking point. Once he got a wheel off into the loose stuff and into the grass, that was it. So he's got some ground to make up now. I was going to say that's a perfect example of what you can do in mixed class traffic in this series. What we call using a pick. If you've got a car from the slower class coming up that you're coming up on, Richard, you kind of make sure that you take the side that the car is not on, and ensure that your competitor is behind them, as I see Arthur Chan is spinning out now as well.
Yes, he managed to hold it together, thank goodness. I do not want to see Arthur Chan in the wall. Andre Trago, if I may just comment on that, he's been showing a little bit of looseness, so that may be his choice of setup, but he's not going to do his tires any good by going, going that loose. Of all the cars that we've been watching, the others seem to have a setup that allows them to go through corners with a lot less drift than Andre Trago, and that combined with the fact that he was passing a slower car caused that near spin for him and that little off that we just watched. But now that things have settled down a little bit in this class, let's go back and have a look and see what's happening. Oh my goodness me, still the same thing, but Marco is now just behind Lloyd. So Marco is the big mover here, and it seems to me that Hang Ho Tower is the big loser, because we do have Stefan Overgaard in front of Hang Ho Tower as well. And this 4-car train has just changed a bit, Joe.
And just to throw another wrench into the mix, Dan Rash is approaching this pack of cars who are all battling for position. So either guys are going to have to play nice, or we might see some fireworks here as Dan starts to approach the back of Hang Ho Tao. And he hopefully will get a good opportunity coming up to the carousel here. After that, it's going to be mostly fairly long straights, which should serve them well. Hopefully this will get these guys out of the way so that nobody ruins anybody else's race. Dan's going to take a look as they come down the front straightaway. Is he going to be able to clear both of them? He's going to try, and he just gets inside Stefan Overgaard. This is great for Dan because now Chemo is stuck behind these guys and has to wait patiently. He's going to get a chance to get by, as now there's going to be a passing opportunity. We're going to go 3 wide with Hang Ho Tao stuck in the middle. Looks like Chemo is able to get past, but just barely, and causes a reverse pick on Hang as Stefan goes around the outside of turn 2 and is able to pull it off. Great stuff, but it's not over yet, Richard. It looks like Hang's going to try and come back at him.
I love it. I love it. It's great. Hang Hotel has thought the better of that. Going back to Chemo, Chemo is now bearing down on the other 2 ST drivers, going around the outside of, is that China Beach? He's cleared Marco, but he could not clear, who is that? Josh Lloyds. So he's still got to negotiate a path past Josh Lloyds. Meanwhile, Dan has got a little bit of a break, and hopefully we'll make good use of that, Joe.
As we stay on this battle, a little bit of information. Apparently, German Afanador was just fresh meat for Clayson because Clayson has started to run away from him. So we'll have to keep half an eye on Clayson's progress, as he seems to have fairly decent pace. But this is exactly what Dan Rash needed, Richard. He started to put some space between himself and Chemo with this traffic. As long as Chemo doesn't have the pace to reel him back in, this could possibly give the opportunity for Dan to try and run away and create a bit of a gap, give himself some breathing space.
Well, this is exactly what you mentioned earlier on, Joe, that through that back part of the course there, it's very difficult for the GS drivers to negotiate that section. And in fact, you find the ST drivers are almost equal in pace to the GS class around that back section. And so we saw that Chemo just could not get past Joshua Lloyds until they came through the last corner and onto the front straight. Now he's passed, and he's now got a fair chase on his hands to catch up to Dan, who's put the better part of a second and a half between them now, Joe.
And unfortunately, this seems to have broken up our battle for second through, I believe it was 4th, or possibly 5th. Hard to remember, there was a bunch of them. Although Marco Mogren's starting to catch back up to Josh Lloyds. Now, Marco, Richard, this doesn't surprise me too much. I've watched him in previous races and in other series. He really seems to have the pace. Maybe he just doesn't have the qualifying raw speed. But whatever the case, he tends to work his way up towards the front of the pack as a race goes on.
Yes, he's got pace. There's no doubt about it. I really do like what Stefan Overgaard's doing here. I firmly believe he's got the pace to be right up there with Josh Lloyds. He was, if you remember, sitting as the 4th member of this pack, although Hang Ho Tao now holds that 4th place in this pack. And he was, the other guys were battling and going side by side and 2 wide to the corners, and he was just sitting there. At some point he did try to take advantage, but generally he's been keeping a watching brief, as he is now behind Marco Mogren and Joshua Lloyds. He will pounce if he sees an opportunity, but he's not going to try anything silly, and I think that's a wise move on his part, Joe.
Yeah, I was just going to say a little bit earlier in the race that when I was watching those guys battle a lot, it really wouldn't have been my approach, that it would have been smarter for them to work together, and anybody behind them probably should have just hung back and possibly used the draft to maybe save a bit of fuel and undercut them in the pit stop. And speaking of pit stops, we are a third of the way through, so that's going to open up the pit window as we've got an hour left to go in this race. You'll probably see some guys be hopping in. Our spotter will have to keep us informed as far as who is hopping into the pits and trying to maybe leapfrog a few people. But yeah, it's all starting to really set off, and Stefan seems to finally settle down and really try to run a smart race here. Now, otherwise, what's going on? I hear that Patrick Bieri might be trying to start something. He seems to have dropped back a bit. He must have had another mistake, but he's caught up to Andre Trego and is currently threatening him, and that is for 7th and 8th place right now at the moment as they head through madness, Richard.
Yeah, now these guys were in that 4-car train that we spoke about with Russell Clayson and German Afanador. Those two have cleared out a little bit, but Patrick Bieri is putting the challenge on Andre Trego, And with the way Trago's been going here, a little bit offline at times, I do expect Patrick Bieri to get by him at some point. However, having said that, Andre still holds down the 7th place, and Patrick Bieri has it all to do to get by him. But he is putting in a strong challenge at this point, Joe.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if Andre just was not able to set up the car completely to his liking, the way that you've described him struggling. I've noticed that too. And Alexis Molina is starting to throw his hat in the ring of this battle. Alexis currently sitting in 9th behind them. In fact, he's fairly close to Bieri, but I don't think he's going to be able to make a pass this time by. Alexis has done a pretty good job to capitalize on some of these guys' mistakes as Bieri goes wide around that second corner. And this could be his race to try and make something happen because Alexis hasn't really shown up towards the front this season, Richard.
Exactly right. And I tell you what, Alexis Molina has been running he's been running the Jeddah in the GT Cup. I've seen him a lot in races, which is another car kind of similar, even though it's a front-wheel drive. It's kind of similar in handling to these Mustangs. So that's going to stand him in good stead as we see him right on the back of Patrick Bieri. So, yes, let's just watch and see how he goes as the race unfolds, Joe.
Yes, Molina in that green and white and black car, and Bieri in the red and white car ahead of him currently. And boy, Alexis had a bobble as he put a wheel off in Thunder Valley. And that's a very common thing to do, Richard. With that crest, the car wants to push wide. And if you just dip them into the grass, it can get very loose. And a number of people have lost it over the years.
Yep, absolutely. Mind you, in the ST car, the MX-5, it is a wonderful place to allow the car to just lift to the outside there and you know, if you're playing around, it's not the fastest way around, but if you're just playing around, it's great fun going around that area.
As they say, slow in, fast out. So sliding not always the best way. Now, you mentioned a little bit earlier, because since we're talking about sliding, the way that these Mustangs eat up their tires, the fronts, from what I understand, are the ones that are probably going to go, especially with that twisty back part. Getting on the power really takes patience. And, I see a GS car actually off into the grass. That is Denny Locke. I'm not exactly sure what happened to him there. I'm going back to check to see. We're going to replay now as we watch him go through turn 2, and I'm not seeing anything. It looks like he just got on the power too quickly, and that sent him off. He is currently a lap down. So something happened to Denny Locke along the way. I guess the lack of practice has really bitten him here, Richard. But nothing really interesting happening with Denny, so let's hop back up to Patrick in that battle up front. As I was saying, Richard, the front tires seem to be the ones that are going to be going off on these Mustangs.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not an expert with the Mustang, but just watching the attitude of these cars as they go around the track, there's a lot required. These cars, the back end just wants to drift away from you, and you've got to try and keep it all in line. So all of the drivers, sorry, we have some information from Giancarlo. What was that?
It sounds like we have James Stevenson in the pits, and he is exiting right now. Behind him, actually, as well, is Stefan Overgaard. They are both teammates as well, so I suspect there's some pre-planned team tactics going on there, those two knowing exactly down to the minute that they are going to hop into the pits. And, you know, one of the things that come into play to that we haven't touched on yet is the caution flags in this series, Richard. Now, I don't want to jinx anything because we've managed to go green for once for quite a while, but we haven't seen them yet. And if it happens before anybody else can get into the pits, it can serve some of these guys that are pitting early very well.
Do not put the jinx on, please, Joe. We don't want to see a caution flag. I'd like to see this go green all the way if possible. Although if you're one or two of the drivers in the race, you probably want to see a caution by now. But yeah, James and Stefan pitting together almost. And where were we? We were elapsed time about 40 minutes. So just before the halfway mark here. Interesting, very interesting, Joe.
I also notice I'm checking on Josh Loitz, who is still out at the moment. He's got Marco Mogren all over the top of him, and he's going to get the lead a lap bonus because he stays out right on this lap around. So going to come across the line, and Josh Loitz is going to be scored in first place, if I'm correct. Yes, there it goes. And that actually gets him a bonus point. So that's another important thing. Every little point can count in this series because it can come down to the wire as far as what position you're in. Marco is really keeping him honest up there, Richard. And I have to wonder if Marco might be trying to kind of wait for the right opportunity or even wait for the pit stops to make his move.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Marco's drive. As I was in the earlier race in the Blondie series that we broadcast, he's really growing into one of the contenders as he now comes up on the inside of Joshua Loitz, and I think he might make this one stick as we see Joshua Loitz decide that discretion is the better part of valor. Mind you, Marco nearly lost it there, and Josh Loitz gets the position back, Joe.
Well, that's smart heads-up driving from Josh there. I think he made the right move in the end. So really good stuff from him. Marco, on the other hand, was just a little bit too hasty on that pass, it seems. One thing that I noticed as we hop over to the GS class is... Oh, and actually Dan Rash is going into the pits right now. I was about to say, Dan was holding that gap over Chemo consistently as the laps ticked by since he was able to establish it. And in fact, Chemo is following him into the pits, so they are both coming in together. This is key. They're front to back in the pit stops. We're going to see a direct correlation between them, Richard, as to who can get in and out fastest.
Absolutely, and we see them both of them taking right sides. In fact, Chemo's right sides came down before Dan's. Now the left sides go up. So they're both taking 4 tires, as you would expect. And it's Chemo, and Dan is just... I knew that Chemo was faster. Maybe he took a gallon less fuel, but he seemed to be faster, Joe, and he is coming out in first place, or certainly ahead of Dan Rash at this point.
Apparently his pit stop, we're getting information, was 3 seconds faster. That, it continues to impress me that Chemo is just an all-around driver. We've seen very few mistakes from him. The ones that he has made, as you said, were ones where he was just being a little bit over-aggressive. As Dan Rash is starting to use that draft and come back on him, is Dan going to try and make a move as they come towards China Beach? This is for the lead, ladies and gentlemen. Chemo takes the inside line. Dan looks around the outside. This could be possible. He's not very far up. They make contact. And it looks like there's no damage, but Dan pulls back a little bit and decides to back out of it. Don't think they should have damaged each other too much from that, but they're getting very close. These guys are not afraid to mix it up.
Dan is a fairly aggressive driver, I found out. But I have to say that Chemo, masterful. He must have short fueled there. That's the only way he could have gained 3 seconds on Dan. And I think Dan's a bit annoyed that he's behind him now when he was leading virtually from the very first lap. And we have a caution.
Go figure. This seems to happen every single time Kimmo Suominen gets in the lead. We saw it a number of times 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta. He would just get into the lead and a caution flag would come out. So things really seem to swing his way. There's a few guys that look like they might capitalize very well on this. Travis Mim is into the pits. German Afandador was already into the pits. Russell Clayson was already into the pits. So a number of guys had already ducked in. I don't think they should get penalties since they were already in there. But their pit stops are done. Anybody that is ahead of them, or obviously behind them as well, that has not pitted yet is going to lose significant track position as they are automatically going to be moving up. So very interesting stuff from those guys. This is really going to mix things up, Richard.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering what caused the caution flag. I'm looking in the pits at the moment. I see Wes Eric in the pits with a badly damaged car. So I'm assuming that he had something to do with that caution flag. Perhaps our director can give us a replay of what happened when he's ready. But certainly very bad damage on Wes Eric's car there, Joe.
I'm seeing from the information that it was someone who needed a tow on the front straight. They were stranded. We'll get information on that later. But right now, let's go through the grid, and then we're going to hop to break real quick. The top 5 in the GS class are currently, actually, Travis Mim is set as the leader from what I'm seeing. I'm not sure if that's correct.
Well, it might be he hasn't pitted yet because Russell Clayson and Randolph's behind him as well. Maybe they've just come into the...
I'm sorry to interrupt. I've got it sorted out now. Randy Chinoth is currently leading the pack. Kimmo Suominen is in second. Then we've got Dan Rash in third. Tim Brokaw is a lap down, so he's not in there. And then fourth, we have James Alex Brown. And fifth is Travis Mim. So things are all mixed up there. Meanwhile, over in the ST class, it looks like we've got James Stevenson in the lead with, it looks like Josh Leutz is currently in second. And actually, I'm going to have to wait till they go over the line. I apologize. We've got a bit of a mix-up with all the cars and what order they're in. So we're just going to wait a second.
A bunch of guys have gone into the pits now to further confuse things. Tom Eckline is behind James Stevenson, the next ST driver behind James. So one would assume that he's currently in second place, which is the case. So James Stevenson, then Tom Eckline. Stefan Overgaard now scored in third place, Joel, with Marco in fourth place. So during all that confusion, in fact, Stefan, no, he's pulled in behind Tom Eckline. So just a quick word here. Tom Eckline in second place, second in the championship, has a familiar ring about it there, Joe.
Yeah, very much so. He's doing very good in this race and capitalizing well on these opportunities. We did get word that the caution was caused by Heng Ho Tao getting into Wes Eric, so that's apparently what went down there, and Eric has pretty bad damage. But as pit stops continue and as this yellow flag works itself out, we're going to hop to break, and we'll see you on the other side. Enjoy some music. Well, now that we are finally back from break and pit stops have cycled through and we've got wave arounds done, things have finally started to shuffle into an order or a semblance of one. And as far as the GS cars go, after pit stops have gone by, Kimo Suominen is back into the lead. Dan Rash is in second behind him, who lost out in those pit stops. Travis Mim done a fairly good job, worked himself up into third. Andre Trago as well is up into fourth. And then Alexis Molina, who we mentioned earlier, is having a fairly good race, up into fifth. What's the top five and the ST looking like right now, Richard?
Well, no surprises that James Stevenson is leading. A little surprise that Stefan Overgaard is in second place. Great job, Stefan. Marco Mogren, who I'm really impressed with, is in third place. It's showing Hang Ho Tao in fourth place, and his car looks fairly whole. So I'm not sure if he's got damage on the front because he was involved in that incident with Wes Eric. And in fifth place, we've got Ed Vores. So he's doing a good job today, Joe.
Yeah, Ed's not typically a front runner, so a top five finish for him would be excellent. And he's got David Whamond behind him, and then Josh Leutz a little bit farther down the line. Now, Josh is probably going to have the pace to catch up to them, but David, he could easily hold behind. So Ed is definitely going to be fighting for that top five. That's going to be very valuable to him. Now, we've got about 40 minutes left in this race. It is a timed race if you have not followed this series before. And Richard, let's explain to our viewers as we finish up these laps, these caution flag laps, a bit of what a caution can mean in this series and in race strategy in general. The guys who pitted before that caution flag essentially cycle their way up through the field because everybody who hasn't pitted is going to want to pit during the caution. So it's basically free positions, Richard.
Absolutely. And what happens during the caution, if you pit during the caution, you don't lose any time because everyone's going slowly around the track behind the pace car and gives you an opportunity to get all your caution. Even if you've got some optional repairs, you can get those repairs done and you can still come out with plenty of time to catch up to the field and be right behind the car that you may be challenging a position for. So that's what's happened here. The guys who lose out are the guys who pitted before on the green flag because they now have they've gained nothing at all from the caution, Joe.
Which is pretty unfortunate for them. I believe the lights are out on the pace car. Am I incorrect?
The lights are definitely out. We have Kimo Suominen right behind the pace car, and just looking from the back of his car, you can see that the pace car is lights out, and we will have a green flag when they go past the start finish the next time, Joe.
Yes, as I think we mentioned this earlier on. If not, they do restart on the start-finish line, so restarts will not take place on the back stretch. And they're getting nice and packed up as Dan is not letting Kimo get away, it looks like. He's certainly good at those restarts, as he proved 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta. They're getting towards the carousel, and as you saw a little bit earlier, this will be a split start, although the green will be at the same time for everybody. The classes are in their two different classes. Pace car peels off into the pit lane as Kimo leads them away. Green flag is out, and Dan got a very good run. He is right on top of the back bumper of that black and white Mustang as Kimo squeezes him all the way to the wall. Dan has to check up, and he looks around the outside of turn one. He's going to hold him in tight, and he's got a decent run. Has he got enough momentum? He's going to have the inside up into the next corner, Richard.
Absolutely, and I do believe Kimo did a bit of blocking there because he went to the left and then back to the right as they go in side by side. They're nearly touching. I think Kimo might be wise to back out of this. He's not backing out, Joe. He gets squeezed by Dan as they go down the back straight away. This is exciting stuff. Let's see what happens when they get into China Beach, Joe.
And they're going to come into the braking zone very soon. No quarter given by either man. They are very, very close. It looks like Kimo is the better man under brakes. He's holding on to that outside line. If he can keep it, he'll have the inside around here, and it looks like he does it. Dan is going to try to come back at him. He's still got a nose in. He's going to try and hold on to it. He's still got it. They're still side by side. Contact was made, and Kimo starts to go around. Kimo is
has
around.
been turned around in that exchange there, and Dan Rash, as I mentioned, very, very aggressive, but not unfairly so, because he was blocked by Kimo down the front straight.
Meanwhile, what's happening back in the ST, Richard?
Well, I've been watching the GS with you, but just hopping back quickly, we see that we have James Stevenson and Stefan Overgaard in first and second place. Let's look behind them. There's a car off. Joe, was that Russell Clayson, perhaps?
That is Russell Clayson.
Yes, so that's going to put a dent in his race plan. And Marco Mogren, as we go to replay on that incident with the Russell Clayson, Marco Mogren in third place, Joe.
And it looks like Russell did exactly what I mentioned earlier. He put a wheel off into Thunder Valley, and in trying to recover, he put it into the wall, just barely with a tap, so it doesn't look like major damage, but he was stuck there a long time waiting for traffic to go by. In fact, he's just now heading back, I'm guessing towards the pits, because he looks a little more bent up than he thought he would. Let's see if he goes by or if he stays out. It looks like he's electing to just try and make up those positions. Now, with that event with Dan Rash, I got a chance to go back and try to look at it real quickly. I don't know about you, Richard, but I have to agree that I don't think Dan did anything wrong there. He had the inside. He went a little bit wide, but, I mean, that was just, to me, a racing incident between the two.
Absolutely. I fully agree with that. Dan was not overly aggressive. He was just making the challenge. Kimo did try to block him going down the front straight away. He went to the inside, and then when he saw Dan switch to the outside, he went back over to the outside. So he kind of deserved what he got there at the end of all of that, Joe.
Well, an eye for an eye might leave the world blind, but apparently an eye for an eye in racing means I go on and you take the spin. So Kimo's got it all to do for now. We've got about 35 minutes left in the race, and he has pretty much the entire field save for Russell Clayson and Denny Locke to try and get by as Tim Brokaw lets him go. So Kimo makes up one spot right there. But man, it's going to be quite a few cars per lap for him to try and chase down Dan Rash at this point.
Well, that's right. And I mean, these Dan Rash, Kimo Suominen have kind of the same pace. So for him to catch Dan Rash, the only thing I can think of is a caution coming out, which will make it possible for him to close back up on certainly on the other GS cars and have an opportunity to pass them to try and make another challenge on Dan, Joe.
Now, here's something significant as we hop back to the ST guys. James Stevenson hasn't quite run away yet. I think that draft has allowed Stefan Overgaard to really kind of hold on, although the lead is stretching now. And Marco Mogren is still in this thing. So we've still got the top guys, top five at least, all pretty close together as Mogren really starts to reel him in coming down towards China Beach. He takes a look to the outside, deciding to hold the traditional line. And Stefan Overgaard is going to hold on to the inside. He's got better momentum coming through there, so Mogren just slots back in, although he tries the cut back. And it looks like Josh Loitz is taking a look on the inside of Hang Ho Tao and does so pretty cleanly. I think he's got it. Yes, that was actually really good stuff. I'm impressed with the way Josh Loitz kind of caught Hang Ho Tao sleeping, if you will, Richard.
Yep, absolutely. So we've got a good battle going on again between the four guys behind James Stevenson. James Stevenson is opening up a gap now on Stefan Overgaard. This is not a good place for Stefan Overgaard to be at this point of the race. He, I believe, would like to be behind the three cars in front of him so that he can just watch what's going on and make a move as it presents himself. Being in the lead of this little pack here means that he's got to defend a position with these guys coming at him, and that is risky, Joe, because you know, if somebody makes a mistake or somebody outguesses the next person, we could have an incident. So not a good place for Stefan Overgaard at this point in time, unless he can pick up the pace and get away from these guys, Joe.
I'm going to take a wild guess and say that you prefer to be the hunter rather than the hunted, Richard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it looks like Marco Mogren, although, is quite comfortable being the hunter himself as he tries to reel in Overgaard now, and Josh Loitz as well. I noticed he was really throwing himself into things. Mogren is going to take a look to the inside, but Stefan Overgaard covers him off through that kink. They're going to go side by side coming through China Beach here. Who's going to be better under braking? And it looks like Overgaard's going to pull just a little bit ahead, but not quite enough. He doesn't keep the momentum. He has a bobble. Mogren takes it, and now Josh Loitz is up in it. Mogren has a little bit of a slide. Loitz is side by side with Overgaard as they head towards through Madness. Overgaard takes the spot back as they get single file once again, and it's very close. Josh Loitz almost sticks his nose in there, but decides to back out, thankfully. So it looks like a position for Mogren, who is now up into second place, Richard.
Absolutely great driving from Marco there. He really made it stick coming through, and just behind them and not out of it by any means is Hang Ho Tao as well, as we see Josh Loitz now making a big move. Oh, Stefan's gone off onto the grass. This is exactly what I was talking about, Joe. Being the hunted is not a position that Stefan enjoys, I'm pretty sure, and he's lost out big time on those other three now.
Well, if he can keep his cool, the draft can come into play here, and especially if those guys start battling, he can still get back into it. He lost a bit of time, but not too much, I think. And the way that these guys have been fighting most of the race, I don't think it's necessarily an unsafe bet to say that they might fight a little bit, especially Josh Loitz, who is trying to capitalize on a very deep braking Marco Mogren into the hairpin. Can't quite do it, though. He stuck a nose in. And now it looks like Mogren got a very good exit, which is impressive with how hard he and how late he braked for that corner. In fact, it looks like maybe Josh got held up because now Hang Ho Tao is coming up the back of him, Richard.
Yep. And Josh goes a little bit defensive, or maybe he's just moving over because he sees that Hang Ho Tao's in there. Hang Ho Tao wisely doesn't try to make a move through there. But Joe, I'm really impressed with Marco's drive. He is just doing a brilliant job. And if we do have a caution, he might well be right behind James Stevenson. And it'll be interesting to see how he stacks up against James, who, as we know, is the absolute consummate driver when it comes to driving these MX-5s around.
Yeah, and I have to say that who's impressed me is Josh Loitz, really. The way that he's really gotten into the mix this race. He's made some great moves and just driven aggressively but fairly. And, you know, speaking of one of your favorite lines, watching the attitudes of the cars, I've been keeping an eye on Mogren. He is sliding around a lot. I'm not sure what's up with his setup or what's going on in that car, but he is really going through a lot of corners sideways, and I think he's going to chew up his tires quite a bit if he's not careful and throw away a lot of his grip, as now Josh Loitz has got to run towards that hairpin.
And he's on the inside as well. I believe that, I could be wrong, but I believe that Marco Mogren runs the basic setup, as, gee, Marco brakes late going in there. However, Josh Loitz has made it stick, and Marco's got it all to do again. Yes, I do believe, Joe, that Marco uses the baseline setup, and that's probably why he's sliding around a bit. The baseline setup uses a fairly high tire pressure, so as the tires heat up, and Marco goes to the outside. This is what I'm impressed about. This guy can go to the outside and he can make it stick around there, although not that time. Josh Loitz covers him and they go virtually side by side, back down and into the section just before Thunder Valley. So, gee, these guys are driving well, Joe.
Yeah, and wow, Josh had a lot of confidence in Marco, I think, because he gave him, you know, about a needle, the hole of a needle to try and get through on the inside of Madness there, just hoping that he wasn't going to try and outbrake himself. That's real trust between those drivers, and they're making it work. But Josh Loitz is currently up into second and doing a great job in this race. Up ahead of him, James Stevenson is still running away. Let's hop back over to GS. Real quick note, Tim Brokaw is DNF. He is not going to finish this race. He is out, I believe, from what the information we're getting. Up at the front of them, Dan Rash is pulling a similar move to James Stevenson at the moment with no Kimmo Suominen to hold him in check. He is really running away with this as Travis Mim is already over 5 seconds back.
Well, Denny Locke, by the way, is also, by the looks of it, out of the race for being 14 laps down. I would say that he's parked it for the day. But here, just have a look at Kimmo Suominen coming up behind. Who is it that's coming up? German Fanador with a slightly damaged car there. So Kimmo has made moves. He's gone up from second last, past 1, 2, 3, 4 cars already. So this is good stuff. If he gets a caution, he will be back in it, I believe, Joe.
Well, let's keep our eyes on the time. Right now, last time by, he was 17 seconds back from Dan. That's the real number to keep an eye on as he tries to hunt down German Fanador through Thunder Valley. Not really a passing zone through here unless they make a mistake. I'm sorry, I had a point. Oh, yes, the time. As Kimmo starts to work his way through, right now we've got about 26 minutes left, so it's been about 10 minutes since the incident. So I don't know exactly what kind of time he's made up as he takes a look on the inside of German towards turn 1. This isn't really a place you want to try and make a pass, but Kimmo does it anyways. He throws tradition to the wind and says, I'm going to take this spot any place that I want, and really does it with a huge affirmation there, Richard.
Yes, he did it with grace and style, as they say. And I have to take my hat off to Kimmo. I like the way Kimmo drives. I just think he's so what's the word I'm looking? Efficient probably is a good word to use there. He uses the car to the very best of its ability, and he's showing that by moving through the field. The next person in front of him is Patrick Bieri, and he can actually see Patrick from where he is now. He's not that far behind. So I expect him, Joe, in the next 26 minutes to possibly get back into the podium position.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I'm pretty sure that the best he can hope for is a podium at this point. It's just too tall of an order to me to try and claw his way up unless he gets a caution knocking on that wood again. He's slowly trying to reel in Bieri, who you mentioned, who is currently in 6th and trying to work himself into the top 5. Alexis Molina has been having a pretty good race, I have to say. Not typically in the top 5 this season because of how steep the competition is, but he's trying to make it happen with about little less than 25 minutes left in this race. He could still do it.
Absolutely. I am impressed with Alexis Molina as well as Andre Trago, Randolph Chenov. These guys have all put in some pretty good. In fact, everybody's done a very, very good job here today. Not the least of which are these guys we've just talked about, Joe.
And I'm looking back at the ST class. It looks like Marco Mogren has worked his way back into 2nd somewhere along the line. So he's gotten by Josh Leutz here. There's still nose to tail. Hang Hotel's been holding on to this as well. And it looks like Hang is kind of just waiting behind these guys for a good opportunity because with him being in 4th, I know my mindset would be hold on, wait for the end, and just try and sneak my way onto the podium as these guys battle.
Yes, they're 3 together at the moment, but Stefan Overgaard is making up time on these guys because remember they're battling with each other and therefore slowing each other down, whereas Stefan has got fairly clear air in front of him, so he's catching up very, very quickly to these 3 in front. And I think, as I've said before, this is the place he likes to be. He's not actually the hunter at this point in time because it's a little too early. I expect him to be making moves in the last 3 or 4 laps, which is where he really could come good here, Joe.
And they're getting very close together as Hang Hotel moves up behind Mogren. They're side by side with Josh, and Josh is still going to try and make a move on Mogren into China Beach, but he's going to be on the outside. And he does the switch over. Switch back for Josh Leutz. Is he going to make it work though? Because they're going over a right-hander now, and he's still ahead of him. That's impressive. I didn't think he'd be able to do it around the outside there, Richard.
Ha ha ha! I got to tell you, these guys, like we said, they drive. Gee, Marco brakes late. Almost too late. If he's not careful, he's going to go right into the back of Josh Leutz, which is the last thing that he wants. And Hang Hotel, what a great race he's had today. We've not seen some great racing from him in the past races, really. But today, he is definitely on the pace with these 2 anyway, and showing his stuff, Joe.
Well, look at this. As we talked about the battling earlier, possibly slowing them down, look who's showed up at the tail end of this group now, Richard.
Absolutely. Stefan Overgaard right back in it. So he wasn't, well, he was quite far back at one point, but he's made up that point and he's looking to challenge Hang Hotel going to the inside. He might not get it done here, or is he going to get it? He gets it done, by goodness me. How efficient is that? And maybe we did have Hang Hotel just giving up the position without too much of a fight there. But now he's got in his sights Marco Mogren, and I'm pretty sure that he'll be thinking, well, Marco, you pushed me off into the dirt. I'm going to get you.
And real quick, while we watch Russell Clayson start to get into the mix of those cars, I noticed that Kimmo Suominen has caught up to the back of Patrick Bieri, and that is currently for 6th and 7th. So Kimmo has worked his way halfway through the pack, and we have 21 minutes left. So in about 15 minutes, he's passed about 7 cars, but his progress is going to slow down. I noticed that he's about 18.7 seconds back, so he's lost a little over a second to Dan Rash in his attempts to try and run him down. I don't think he's going to be able to try and vie for that first position. They're coming up on lap traffic right now, and Bieri, I think, actually just moved out of the way and let Suominen by. I guess he kind of figured he really didn't have anything for Kimmo, and there was no point in slowing themselves down when he could possibly take a position from Alexis Molina if he just holds on to the back of him, Richard.
That's right. And now we have Kimmo coming up on the back of Alexis Molina. It remains to be seen whether Alexis will fight. Somehow I don't think so, because you don't want to tangle with a guy who... Sorry, go ahead.
Alexis is off. Alexis Molina is into the grass, and position has gone to Kimmo Suominen. So 2 positions and 1 lap for Kimmo. That moves him up into 5th place. So top 5, and he's got quite a bit of clear track to get to Andre Trego. So this could help him possibly start to run down that gap just a little bit this time by, if he could pick up his pace and reel in Dan Rash. So making progress through the field. He's looking at least a for sure top 5 unless disaster strikes in the latter stages of this race.
Yeah, I was going to say that Alexis Molina is a pretty accommodating driver, giving up a position perhaps too easily. And in trying to give up that position to Kimmo, he actually went off because he was concentrating more on giving away the position rather than where he was going. And so he lost that position and he went off. But he has managed to stay, has he, in front of, where is he now? No, he's lost a couple of positions. So bad luck for him. He'll have to fight his way back now again, Joe.
Now let's hop up just a little bit up the GS field. Travis Mim has been holding on to 2nd since he inherited it from Kimmo and been doing fairly well. But shortly behind him, just less than a second, it looks like, is Randy Chineth. Now, Randy was in the mix at Daytona, and we haven't seen a whole lot of him since. He's suffered from some bad luck. So is Travis Mim, really, if we were going to be honest. But these two are looking set for a podium here. And they are getting very close, actually, to each other now. And we could see them battling. We've got about less than 20 minutes left to go. So I have to ask you, Richard, as the seconds tick down on the clock, when would you make your move? Is it time to go now, or do you wait till 10 minutes, 5 minutes? What's the best time?
The time it depends on circumstances as well. If there are no extenuating circumstances, I would wait till a little bit later on in the race. But of course, if somebody makes a mistake, you grab the position. Now, it seems to me, Joe, that these two, Travis Mim and Randolph Chenoweth, are teammates. They have the same, certainly the same looking paint job on their cars. So one would assume that they be talking to each other and deciding what they're going to do. But to answer your question a bit later on, it's a little too early if you're in a tough fight to make a move at this point, Joe.
I would have to agree. I would probably wait till maybe about 5 or 10 minutes left to go on this track in these cars. Now, if you're new to the series, Randolph Chineth is currently holding 3rd. He is in that blue and white car on your screen, and then Travis Mim is in the black and white car ahead of him. And Travis is having a fairly good race to be all the way up into 2nd, even though he's got a 10-second gap from Dan Rash, who is still leading with authority. And it doesn't look like anything's going on with them, so we'll have to keep half an eye on this battle. Real quick, let's hop over to the ST leader of James Stevenson just to see what he's up to. He has got a fairly good-sized lead over Josh Loitz, and James has just been steadily running his laps. He is looking to be pretty much a shoo-in for the win unless something happens to him from here on out. So it looks like we're kind of returning to the days of old with Dan Rash and James Stevenson really dominating everybody, Richard. But with Josh Loitz, it's not the story is not over yet, as Marco's still behind him, it looks like.
Absolutely. Marco is right on the tail of Josh Loitz, and these guys have been battling all race long. Stefan Overgaard has dropped back a little away from them now, which is perhaps a good thing. He's not pushing at the stage. Maybe there's a little bit of fuel consumption coming in. I don't know. But just ahead of them, we have Marco. Marco's trying it every time. Marco is caution to the wind here, Joe. I'm going to take a position if I can get it, is his attitude by the looks of things.
No attack, no chance, as some drivers would say. It seems to be Marco's philosophy today and in other races. He's less than a car length. Whoa,
bobble,
and Josh
bobble
gets
there, and he gets the position.
Wow, I'm impressed that Josh was able to hold on to that. I thought for sure he was going off into the grass. That very fast portion on the transition from Madness into Thunder Valley is extremely dangerous. The barriers are very close on the outside. If you dip a wheel into the grass, it's almost certain that you're going to touch the barriers. And it's not a question of, if, more like how hard are you going to hit, Richard?
Yep, and yeah, you've got to be really, really careful there. And what you don't want to be thinking about while you're going through is another car challenging you for the position. But what that has done is given our friend Stefan Overgaard, as we see just going wide, he's kind of under pressure at the moment. And Stefan Overgaard right on the back of these two now, Joe, as they come into turn 2.
Yeah, and you saw Josh just take out some of the outside cones there, so he's really pushing it to the limits. Now, this kind of surprises me that we saw that sort of mistake from Josh. We've seen him under pressure in the past at Lime Rock Park in Season 3. James Stevenson hunting him down lap after lap, and he was able to not buckle under, what I would say is more impressive pressure from James than from what you'd get from Marco. So I kind of wonder if maybe he's a bit rattled, or if he's just getting tired, or what's going on with Josh, that he's not doesn't have the standard of sustainability that we're used to seeing from him.
Actually, I've been watching Josh Loitz a lot. I have raced against him a couple of times in the GT Cup. He does not like, and maybe I'm going out on a limb a little bit here, but I don't think he likes to chase. He likes to lead, and that gives him an opportunity to do his thing, pick his lines, and that sort of thing. Having to chase means you've got to keep half an eye on what the other guy's doing, and so he's not 100% comfortable in that role. I watched him chase down another driver at Lime Rock Park, and once he caught him and passed him, he was very comfortable, and unfortunately had an accident in that race, and it cost him the position to me, thankfully. But I don't think he likes being the hunter. He rather likes being the hunted, because he can do his own thing then, rather than having to depend on what somebody else in front of him is doing.
I was going to say, I have to imagine you didn't consider it unfortunate at the time when you took that spot, but it looks like he's really closing up into the hairpin on Marco Mogren. He's going to have the draft and then some coming down the back straightaway, so this could be an opportunity for Josh. Let's see what he does coming down here, Richard.
Yeah, and just quickly, they've dropped Hang Ho Tower off completely now. So Hang's got a bit of work to do to catch up to the guys. But back to the action. Josh Loitz goes to the inside into China Beach. Marco lets him do that. Marco thinks about coming back on the inside and decides against it. Wisely, I would imagine. But now we have a bobble once again from Josh. So Marco is back on the on his bumper. And just behind them, looking at Stefan Overgaard. He is just not going to try anything here. It's too dangerous. But Marco throwing caution to the winds. I just love the way this guy drives. I think he's doing a great job, Joe.
Now, the interesting thing about that pass that Josh made, and what I thought was impressive in the way that it was so marginal and showed what trust he has, is he did the same move that he did before. He kind of squeezed off Marco and gave him only just a car width gap on the inside there, so Marco really couldn't use the momentum to try and outbrake him and sneak back on the inside of that corner. And that really basically kind of sealed the deal of Josh's pass into China Beach and allowed him to hold on to that position. So really good stuff, really smart driving from Josh.
Yeah, and you'll see now that he's in front of Marco. He can drive his natural race because at the same time now Marco's coming under threat from Stefan Overgaard, who's caught up entirely with these guys. But really, these three have produced a good spectacle for viewers with their constant battling, and it's been good TV viewing, Joe.
Speaking of TV viewing, what you're seeing on your screen right now is an onboard view from Stefan Overgaard as we watch the battle for second place between Leutz and Mogren. Doesn't look like he's going to take a try this time, but look at that windscreen, Richard. This is what these guys are dealing with. I'm guessing that Overgaard elected not to have his tear-off peeled off because he is all full of dirt right now.
Yeah, the thing is, though, that when you're following behind cars, and especially if you're following closely, you will start to pick up dirt fairly quickly. Now, it's it's an automatic tear-off that happens when you go into the pits. Now, it's been a while since they've been in the pits, so an accumulation of dirt is very likely. And you'll see that screen getting dirtier and dirtier the longer he stays very close to the back of these cars, Joe.
Now let's hop over to GS class real quick because I see that we've got Andre Trego and Kimmo Suominen not too far off from each other. There's the car of Tom Eckline between them currently. Kimmo is probably going to dispatch with him, although he's being held up just a little bit, it looks like, actually. So, yeah, Kimmo gets balked a little bit as they come to Thunder Valley, but now he's going to get on by. So Andre Trego's got a bit of breathing room. And I understand that, well, I thought there was a battle between Mim and Chinnoth, but it looks like they aren't very close together. So let's stick with Kimmo and Trego because I know Kimmo at one point was about a second and a half faster from the information that we were getting. So Kimmo's still in 5th place with about 10 minutes left to go on the clock. I told you it'd be a little bit harder going for him to try and make up places, and what do you know? He hasn't made one up since we last saw him about 10 minutes ago. So he's really struggling at this point, Richard, and but I don't think Andre Trego will be necessarily easy pickings, but not too difficult for him.
Well, you know, I take my hat off to Kimmo. He's driven brilliantly since he had that contact with Dan Rash. But you're quite right. It's not going to be easy from here on in because he's coming across drivers who have a similar pace to his. He may have a little of an advantage. And if you look at the time difference between himself and Dan Rash, it has actually extended, not by much, but it's in the late 18 seconds now. So that means that Dan's picked up another half a second or so on him from the time when it was 17 seconds. Sorry, from the time when it was 18 seconds, probably about 10 minutes ago, Joe.
Now, as you watch your screen, you can, if you pay attention closely, you can see Kimmo is actually bit by bit reeling in Trego as this lap goes on. So his pace is definitely better. He's visibly closer now. He's got him in his sights, Richard. It's maybe 5 or 6 car lengths between them as they complete this lap by. And with 8 minutes to go, I'm pretty sure Andre Trego is going to have to start pulling out every trick in the book that he knows to try and hold back this Finn.
Yep, and not being helped by, I think that's Ed Voras in front of them, although it's on the front straight away. So Andre gets past very easily, but now Kimmo has to decide whether he's going to challenge. He takes a nice inside line there, so he hasn't lost any time. I think he will catch Andre Trego, and they're going to be battling for position. Now, in front of Andre, not too far ahead, is Randolph Chenoweth. So it's going to be touch and go whether there's enough time for Kimmo to attack and possibly pass these guys, Joe. But I'm a fan of Kimmo. I think he can do it.
I think what it's really going to depend on here is whether or not Chemo can get by Andre quickly. Because if they start battling and he can't get it done decisively, that's going to give Randy a chance to try and get away and possibly save his podium position there. Chemo, on the other hand, is going to really want to try and make one move, I think, if not one, maybe two, because the more that he tries to put moves on Andre is a smart driver. He's going to start picking up where he's going to make these attempts, and he's going to learn how to defend off of him, as we see Chemo get right up on the back. He's less than a car length back now, Richard, as they come up into that fast left-hander at the end of Thunder Valley.
Yeah, watch for Chemo.
And
he just blows by. Excellent stuff. I think that, of course, we had a little mistake from Andre there, and he relinquished that position rather quickly. I thought that the move would come in turn one from Chemo, because he's shown that he doesn't mind going to the inside and making the move stick in turn one. But now, I don't think Andre will catch back up to Chemo. Now the next challenge is to catch Randolph.
I kind of wonder if Andre gave up the ghost on that, if he just decided there's no point trying to fight him, because Patrick Bierry isn't too far down the line, so they could have slowed each other up too much and could have been under threat for more than just one position down. So maybe he just thought that it's better to try and just hand it over and consolidate his fifth place position. Chemo is currently holding fourth in that black and white car as he goes by. He just recently passed the ST car of Arthur Chan, I believe it was. So hunting down Randy Chnoth now, looking for that third place position. That's a bit of a ways to go. So let's hop back over to ST and see how the battle over there is going. And it looks like actually Dan Rash is splitting that second place battle right now, Richard.
Yes, and Dan Rash, he should go easy on these guys because he's got a very, very good lead. But that's not Dan Rash's style. Actually, he slots in behind Josh Lloyds and doesn't try to pass him, but now he'll obviously pass him going down the front straight there. And he's also got a slower car in the GS class in Chris Duffy in front of him, so I'm pretty sure he'll make short work of him. Now let's go back to the battle here. So we've got, looking at Marco Mogren behind Joshua Lloyds. The distance is not much, but it is increased since we last came and had a look at these guys. Behind them, Stefan Overgaard behind Marco, a lot closer to Marco than Marco is to Josh. So there's not a lot of time left, and I wonder whether this position will change at all. I'm trying to think about where Stefan can make a move, but it may not be possible with a little time left there, Joe.
Yes, currently less than 5 minutes left to go, so we're really in the waning stages of this race as Marco once again slides it around the left-hander in madness. But I'm surprised that things have separated. I would think this is the point in the race that we mentioned before where you really want to be up on the back of somebody and start to pressurize them. This is where you want to try and get a mistake out of them, look at the opportunities, and we saw Stefan Overgaard go off a little bit in the background there, so he himself is making the mistakes. Maybe the weariness of having driven for an hour and a half is finally getting to him, Richard.
Yes, perhaps, although I believe he's just trying really, really hard. These guys have really good pace in front of him. Marco has this ability to go so deep into a corner and yet get a really good exit as well. And that's hard for a driver following to cop, because he has now, he's got to struggle to keep up. Joshua Lloyds, in the meantime, running in front of these guys as they come up to some slower cars, or is that there's a GS car in front of them and then a couple of ST cars in front of that. So Marco has got to make his move now if he wants to make it on Josh, and Stefan has got to make his move now if he can on Marco Mogren, Joe.
Very much so. And as I was kind of keeping half an eye on Chemo and Randy, who are relatively close. Actually, well, no, Chemo is much closer now, so he should be making a move soon. We've got 3 minutes left on the clock. He's probably going to get maybe 2, maybe 3 laps in here. So he's really got to try something soon. Something worth noting is that Kimo has never been off the podium this season. This is his rookie season, and he's been in the top 3 in every race. And that's why he's leading the championship right now, because when Dan Rash falters, he has fallen back into the field. When Kimo falters, we're looking at it right now, he is looking at a 3rd place on a bad day. So this is it right now as he comes up to the back of Randy Chineth now, Richard.
Yep, this is where the action is at this point in time. We'll leave the ST for a little while. Let's see what he does. My bet is down the front straight into turn 1. Let's see what happens. Or maybe even here. No, not quite close enough to try anything there. But they've got a slower car, which would be Hang Ho Tower in front of them. And they've got another GS car as well. So watch this. Let's see him go to the inside here. He's been doing that all. He's not quite close enough here, though, Joe.
Yeah, I think that would be quite too much of a dive bomb, even for Kimo. But he's going to close up as he carries his momentum just a little bit better through that corner. I think we're going to see something here, actually, unless he wants to wait for China Beach. It looks like he might. He takes a little bit of a look, but he slots back in line, closes up under braking as Chineth goes very defensive.
What?
He's going to want to hold on. Yeah, I was going to say, you're right, if you're going to mention the cutback, but he doesn't really get it.
Exactly right. I thought he was going to do that, but he wasn't quite close enough. And the slower car in front could change things up a bit. But here he comes now, Joe.
And this is really where he's going to prove his chops. Oh, I'm sorry, we've got a battle for second going on in ST. Mogren is trying to get back by Leutz, and it looks like he might have it. Yes, he does. He gets it done, so Mogren is up in a second. Let's hop back to that GS battle, though, as Randy is still being hunted down. I was going to say, this is where Randy is going to have to prove himself, because that defensive maneuver, I was really impressed with that and the way that he was able to get a good exit. He knew that that's really going to be key with that long straightaway after there. He doesn't want to be vulnerable no matter how much he wants to go defensive on that one corner. So we've got about 30 seconds left to go. We should be getting the white flag soon if our director can let us know if something goes on as Kimo gets a run coming out of that same corner. He's going to look around the outside of the carousel. Is he going to be able to do it? He's holding on to that outside line. He's starting to lose position. They're going to go through that kink, and he's still got the spot. Looks like he's going to try that move that you mentioned there, Richard.
Okay, great driving from Randolph Chenov, though. He's not close enough to try that move around the inside of turn 1, but let's see what happens now. Call this while I keep an eye on what's happening in the ST, Joe.
And Chineth is holding that inside line once again as Kimo goes to the outside and breaks very late. In fact, he goes clear around the outside. They start to come together. They almost touch. They're side by side. It's going to be a drag race down the straightaway towards China Beach. It looks like we're getting the white flag, and Dan Rash has just begun, or I'm sorry, where is he exactly?
All right, let me take over. At this point in time, Stefan Overgaard was making his move. He tried to go around the outside of China Beach there on Josh Leutz. He's definitely trying his move now, Joe. He didn't get it done there. Let's see what happens in the next lap or so. Back to you.
Let's hop up to Dan Rash, who's completing his lap. He's going to take the checkered flag and take his second win of the season here at Mid-Ohio. So 2 in 5 races. We've had only 2 winners so far this season, and this is one of them. Dan Rash trying to make his comeback in this championship with an excellent win. What's going on in that battle?
All right, as we just watch James Stevenson crossing the line, I don't know whether he's going to go another lap or not. If not,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Marco Mogren just got pushed off by Josh Leutz, and that slowed him down. Stefan Overgaard has jumped in front of him. Stefan Overgaard is going to take the second place position as Josh Leutz rounds out the podium.
Excellent stuff, and I missed it. I was watching James Stevenson going across the line there because we have been guilty in the past of not following the leader crossing the line, but great driving from Stefan. I knew he was ready to pounce just at the right moment. And of course, the other two were battling hard to try and maintain their position and touched, obviously. And that is what caused the problem. So let's, do we have a replay of that?
We do, and we're watching that right now. Let's see exactly what happened. It looks like Mogren got a bad exit coming towards the carousel. Josh Loitz got into the grass and actually ran into him, it looks like, because you can't really brake enough in that grass. So I think, honestly, that one's on Josh Loitz. He may get a protest for that. The other thing that we missed was Kimmo Suominen and Randy Chineth. It looks like they battled all the way around that through madness and whatnot. Chineth was trying to hold him off, and it looks like it may have come to blows a little bit there. Maybe. It's hard to tell if they made contact. I do know after they finish that... after they finish, as you watch this replay of Kimmo taking the win, if our director can just hold on this replay here, it looks like Chineth came up beside Kimmo and banged his doors after the start-finish line. So either some friendly ribbing or possibly some hot tempers, as Randy was not happy about maybe losing that podium position. I completely forgot what I was talking about before that, though, Richard, so I'm going to hand off to you.
I can tell you, just before we watch the replay, this is what happens when you have exciting finishes in both classes. You can't follow both of them. We've only got one director and one camera following the action. So we'll go to the replay and we'll catch up with all the action as it happened in both classes.
Well, since everybody has finished up now, let's go through the top 5 in each, and then we are going to head to break. And first, in the GS class, after all that, Dan Rash came out on top, with Travis Mim taking home a podium with second place. Kimmo Suominen on his worst finish so far in this season, and third. Incredible stuff. Fourth is Randy Chineth, and we're actually going to do the top 10. Fifth is Andre Trago, somewhat disappointing, but still good stuff from him. Patrick Berry in sixth. Seventh is German Afanador. 8th, Alexis Molina. 9th, James Alex Brown. And 10th is Fernando Fireball. What are the top 10 in the ST?
Well, a very comfortable win once again for James Stevenson. Is there anyone to challenge this man? Stefan Overgaard in an extremely exciting finish, which no doubt will be spoken about over the next day or so. Came in second. Joshua Loitz, who I haven't seen the replay, but you said probably was not faultless in that incident. He's in third place. Marco Mogren, great race from Marco, in fourth. Fifth, Hang Ho Tao, very steady from him. Arthur Chan, whom we didn't see much of, in sixth place. Seventh was Ed Voras. David Wammond in eighth place. Tom Eckline in ninth place. Philip Carpenter in 10th place. And there's only one other left, which was Wes Eric. He managed to finish, by the looks of things, in 11th place. Joe?
Well, that's your top 10 in each class. We're going to head to break. We'll get back to you afterwards. Stick around because we're going to have interviews with the podium, hopefully, in each class, and we'll get some exciting viewpoints. See you after the break. Welcome back after an exciting race in the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series held at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Fantastic stuff here. That was some incredible racing. We're going to start off with our third place finisher in the ST class, which was Josh Loitz, who had some really good racing, but seemed like there was a bit of an unfortunate ending to it. Josh, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you guys hear me all loud and clear?
Yep, we gotcha. Josh, congrats on a podium. It looked like things got a little bit heated and actually came to blows in the final corner there.
Yeah, that kind of ruined my whole race. I feel really bad for spinning Marco there. We were doing great the whole race, me and him, back and forth. We went side by side through madness, I don't know how many times, and it was really good stuff till the very end there. I was right on his bumper, and I thought, in the heat of the moment, there's a little gap that I can maybe squeeze in. And then I was all fours on the grass, and there wasn't really much I could do. And I just barely tapped him like that. And then when Stefan get by, now I think that's the third time this season I've been passed for second and finished third. So we'll get second sometime soon. But overall, it was a really fun race. I really wish I could have given something to James, too, at the beginning. Oh well, that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, and those third places still rack up points, so that's good to be consistent, at least to be able to have gotten this many podiums as you have. It looked like you were battling for pretty much the entire race with that group that was just second through fifth place. Was there any point where you wanted everybody to just kind of settle down and everybody work together to try and catch James, or were you content to really fight it out like that?
Yeah, that was a huge dilemma. It's trying to figure out who's the fastest guy of the pack and who can, set the pace and maybe try and make a comeback towards James. But, I felt like I was the fastest, and probably everyone else thought they should be leading, and it just ends up being just trying to pass each other, just trying to be that leader. And, by that time, James, by the time I already got in the second after the caution, I was already 5 seconds back of James. I felt like I had something for him, too. If I just was able to hold on to him, I might have been able to, make some moves with James there, but unlucky at the start, and then I got caught in the pits too when the caution came out, so I had to go to the end of the line. But that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, pit strategy can catch you out at times, and that ever-important draft that you mentioned really comes into play at this track and able to keep up with a faster car. Is there anybody that you'd like to thank or sponsors you'd like to mention before we go out?
Thanks to my sponsor, Corona, and looking forward to the next race is all I gotta say.
All right. Thanks for talking to us, Josh.
Yeah, you guys, thanks.
All right. Richard, next up we have Stefan Overgaard, who took a well-deserved second place, I think. Would you like to talk to him?
Absolutely. Stefan, can you hear me?
Sure can, Richard.
Well, Stefan, I thought you ran a great race today. You were certainly on the pace. How was the battle with those three other guys? You had Joshua Loitz, Marco Mogren, and Hang Ho Tao in or around you virtually all race long.
Yeah, that was very intense. Unfortunately, I didn't really find a good place to overtake. Every time I tried to overtake, I actually lost a position. So I just decided to stay behind, and it paid off in the end.
Yeah, I actually said in the broadcast to Joe that that's exactly what you would do and leave it perhaps to the last couple of laps to make your move. Did you think that you were going to get that second place, or did you think you'd resign yourself to it would have been a fourth place, was it? Fourth place it would have been behind Joshua and Marco, and then all of a sudden they battling with each other and one loses it and you get the position. Great stuff.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking I might have a shot for a third position. I'd tried to save my tires a bit in the last laps, but that didn't work too well, so that was just pure luck that I got second position.
Yeah, well, you did a great race because you've got to be in it to win it, and you were right in it there waiting for something to happen, and you did take the position. So congratulations, Stefan. Probably your best finish this season. You've had a bit of bad luck. We're glad to see you back on in good form again. So Thank you for giving us a great race to watch, and we will let you go after you give your shout outs and thanks.
Just my shoutouts to the team and James. He tried to help me with the qualifier, but that I blew that. So yeah.
All right, so a 1-2 for the Asbury Motorsports team. Thank you for talking to us.
Well, we also have our winner in the ST class waiting in the wings, so let's bring him in here and see if we can ask him a few questions. James Stevenson, can you hear us?
Yep.
James, yet another win. You are, I believe, 4 for 5 at this point in the season, so obviously dominating. Now, did you think anybody had anything? Were you worried at any point in this race? Because it seemed like even on the restart, there was really no challenge for you.
Once we got to the race, it wasn't too worrying. I mean, I was, 7/10 ahead in qualifying, so I knew I had a little bit in hand. But off the start, Josh came round me, and that was a bit of a worry. But after that, everything was fine.
That was an impressive move from him, very opportunistic. As far as waiting to get that back, did you think you'd have to wait to the pit stops, or were you willing to try and make a go at him at the first opportunity?
Oh, I knew I was a lot quicker than him, so it would be a disadvantage to me to run behind him, so I just had to get past him as soon as I could.
Well, next up is Watkins Glen on the schedule, and obviously that one is a lot more prone to draft battles coming out, so guys who aren't quite as fast as you could probably hang with you. Are you at all worried about that? How do you fancy that track?
Oh, I'm just hoping that it goes like the first half of Daytona, where it's just one or two of us out in front in a bit of a pack and can draw away from everybody and then deal with it at the end. Although unfortunately I had some dramas at Daytona, so that didn't play out the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, it can be tricky getting back in the back of the pack like that. Well, it's definitely been a pretty much lights to flag win for you this time around. So, would you like to thank any sponsors or make any shout outs?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my sponsor Castrol and give a shout out to Stefan, who got second pretty much on the last corner, and also to Richard, who's had a good broadcast in here today, I suppose, and our team manager Stephen, who can't be with us this season.
Yes, we're sad to see him not out there mixing it up, especially with his good start to the season. Thanks for talking to us, James, and congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
Well, Richard, next up we have the 4th place finisher, just missed out on the podium in GS, Randy Chineth, who had quite a battle with Chemo at the end there. So let's pull him in here and I'll let you talk to him.
All right, thank you. Randolph, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Randolph, now, I don't often interview the GS guys, but I did watch a lot of the race in the GS class today. I thought you ran a good race. Just tell us a little bit about your thoughts as the race was unfolding.
Well, I mean, my entire mentality with the race, I knew I would start about mid-pack. It was more or less just kind of cruise, keep it under control, let everyone burn their tires off, let everyone make their own mistakes. About midway, we got the yellow. A couple people tried to slip in just before it because people were calling out where the wreck was on the driver channel. People tried to get into the pits. A couple of them got black flags because of it, and that moved me up the field a ways. And I managed to avoid the spinning Chemo and basically sat third for a while. And then I got to enjoy running and banging doors with Chemo for the last couple laps, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for a long period of time there, towards the end of the race, you were in 3rd place and therefore on the podium. And then all of a sudden you look in your mirrors and here's Chemo coming up behind you. What were your thoughts when you saw him coming up? Did you want to think, oh, I'll have to give up the place? Did you want to fight? It looked like he did pass you fairly straightforwardly in the end there.
Well, the moment he spun, I started looking at the relative and the split, seeing where he was and monitoring the time. I knew he would probably get to me. So I kind of had the knowledge that he would get to me and would probably get by me, depending if he had the time, and he had just enough to do so this time. So And the pass was pretty. I mean, it was pretty straightforward. We went 3 wide to turn 3, or is that turn 4, whichever, and then we basically ran the S's 2 wide. There was a little bit of contact in the S's, but nothing dirty or really bad. Just a little door to door that kind of upset my car a little bit. But I'm not upset about the way he raced me at all. It was a lot of fun, and it was always fun to have someone clean to race with who can race you hard without wrecking you.
Yep. Well, we believe you ran an excellent race, and I'm pretty sure it won't be long before we do see you on the podium there. So congratulations on a good finish. Not on the podium today, but coming soon is what we'll write next to that. Thanks for talking to us. Are there any shout outs or thanks you want to give to other people? Go right ahead.
Shout out to my team, New World Sim Sport, if I can talk. Shout out to Travis Mim, who's my old teammate. He decided to make his own team or whatever. So congrats to him on his second place, and shout outs to Dan for the win. Shout outs to GSRC for, I'm sure, doing a great broadcast.
Well, thank you, Randolph, and congratulations once again, and thanks for talking to us.
All right, thank you, sir. Good one.
Back to you, Joe.
Well, we did have Travis Mim in here until a few moments ago, and then he suddenly disappeared, so I guess he didn't want to talk, unfortunately. We were ready to interview him for his excellent second place. So I guess we'll have to skip over him and head to Dan Rash. I'm getting word that it sounds like Travis might be switching computers, so he should show up in a little bit. So we'll have to do him just in a second. Oh, no, I take that back. Travis has come back, so let's drag him in here real quick. And hopefully he's ready. Oh, and I think he disappeared. Oh, no, come back here, Travis. He's running away from us. Travis, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
We got you loud and clear. We lost track of you for a second. Congratulations on a second place finish. Well-earned podium. You managed to avoid all the trouble. What were your thoughts when you watched that battle start to unfold between Dan and Kimo in front of you, and suddenly Kimo spun out?
I was a little worried. I knew it was coming. I was pretty sure that if they were going to go too wide through all of China Beach and Madness there, that something bad was going to happen pretty quick. So I gave them a little bit of room, and sure enough, they made contact, and I got off the gas right away and made sure I gave myself plenty of time to get around without getting another Mustang packed in the back of mine.
Very smart driving. Always good to hear that drivers are thinking 2 steps ahead. Now, we didn't actually get to see you work your way up into that position. We know that it happened somewhat through the pit stops. When did you pit? Did you get to take advantage of that yellow?
Yeah, unfortunately for Russell and German, I was about 6-7 seconds up ahead of them, and I was using a spotter from my Blackadder Motorsports team, and they let me know that something was going on, and I got to hop into the pits before the yellow came out, and I got clear of pit lane before they closed pits.
Now this Blackadder team sounds pretty extensive, with you guys even having spotters out there. What all is involved? Like, who all is on this team, and what all is involved in it?
Yeah, I just started the team. We all kind of got together just because we like to see people really push themselves and share information and kind of work like a community to better yourself as a driver. So I started a little forum. Me and Marco Malgren. Unfortunate to see his day end like that. Me and Marco are going to be racing the Conti Series from Blackadder, and a couple guys on there right now. But it's free to join the forums, no matter what team you're on. You can come and hang out with us, and we'll be keep looking ahead. We'll be doing little high performance driving sessions and stuff, and have some nice conversations over there about how you can go a little quicker.
Always helpful, and it's good to see this community so tight-knit to be able to share that information. Thanks for talking to us, and congratulations once again. Before we let you go, is there any sponsors you'd like to thank or shout-outs you'd like to make?
Yeah, I'd like to say thanks to my teammate Brad for help spotting me today. It was a lot of help having somebody in your ear the whole time, and a shout out to Marco. He's been he did the same thing I did early in the year. We both started out pretty rocky, and we both worked together and kind of figured out a good way to go about things, and it was just really unfortunate to see him see his day end the way it did. So congratulations to him for running 99% of the race pretty well.
Absolutely. It was sad to see the battle end the way it did. Thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Well, we've got one last person, the GS winner, overall winner, Dan Rash, who is going to join us. Richard, would you like to talk to Dan?
Absolutely. Love talking to Dan. Dan, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Richard.
So, Dan, pretty much a win from start to finish with the only change happening during the pit stops. What were your thoughts early on in the race when you got out front? Did you think you had the pace to stay out front? Because you certainly looked like you did. And what happened when you saw Kimo get out in front of you after the pit stops?
Yeah, I couldn't say it was a win start to finish. I knew it was going to be a really close one, and after the restart was more luck than anything. At the start of the race, I knew that I had good pace. I don't think I was going to have enough pace to break the draft of Kimo, but I was going to have enough pace to hopefully stay in front of him. And I know that if we did go too wide, that I have a little bit of netcode advantage on my side, being that I'm closer to the iRacing server. And also in practice, it looks like when we were too wide, I made it through just a little bit better than him. But at the start of the race, started to pull away from him, got about not quite 2 seconds, and it was time to pit. And I don't know if he took less fuel or if I was just slow getting into my pit from being cautious, because when we got out, he jumped me just a little bit, and then yellow flag came out. Had a restart. I wanted to go to the inside on the restart, and he was sliding towards the left. And so at the last second, I cut right, and I don't know if it showed up as well on the broadcast on my screen. He got pretty sideways. I gave him a nice love tap on the bumper. And then we were too wide, through the first few turns down the back stretch. And then at the right-hander, I don't remember the turn number, unfortunately. I think he just got the line a little bit too close, and we made contact, and the netcode decided that he was going to have the worst of it, and so he got spun. It doesn't look like he went all the way around, but got a good spin.
Okay, looks like we got a pretty bad line on your side at the moment there, Dan, but it was a very, very good performance, very workmanlike, I thought, excepting for the little incidents that we did have there. But other than that, I don't think you were really troubled by anybody. So a really good win to you, Dan. We might let it go there with that bad line that you've got. So if you have any shout outs, just do that, and then we'll let you go.
Oh, sorry to hear it. Well, thanks to Freedom Main Radio for sponsoring the Ford Mustang. It ran well this race, and thanks to the broadcast, guys.
You are welcome, and congratulations on another win. That will certainly put your chances or increase your chances now of taking the championship, with Kimo having won a couple as well. So good racing, and back to you, Joe.
Excellent racing all around from a lot of guys out there today. We are just about to close up, but before we do, Richard, I actually want to get your thoughts on this race.
Well, I was very excited through most of the race. I thought that on both sides, both in the in the GS class, we had that pack of four there, which was led at one stage by Russell Clayson, or he was in there. They were doing an excellent job and giving some really good value to the viewers. Of course, most of the race we had the Stefan Overgaard to Hang Ho Tao, four of these guys who put on such a great show. I think that the spectacle came through today, and for those people who actually stuck around to watch the broadcast, they would have got some really, really good racing to watch. So a great race, one of the ones that will certainly go down in my books as a tick for a good race, Joe.
I agree completely. I was incredibly impressed with the side-by-side racing we saw all day. A lot of guys showing a lot of respect. Even though I don't think the aggressiveness left, I think the aggressiveness has possibly gotten in check as guys have finally gotten used to each other. And maybe this is a good sign, since we've only had one caution flag in this whole race today. So Great stuff all around. As we close up, we want to say thank you to a few people, mostly Safecraft Racing, who sponsors the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series. Safecraft Racing makes real-life safety gear for motorsports, such as window nets and helmets and such. And so we can't thank them enough for all they do to save lives and save limbs of real-world racers. Thank you to Wes Eric, who organizes the CESCS. He puts in a lot of thankless hours. Thank you to the software and hardware that we use, such as iRacing.com, XSplit, Twitch TV, Audio Technica, and AverMedia. Thank you to the team, Richard, Giancarlo, especially to Sean Ambrose, who stuck around and helped us out with great spotting today. If you'd like to find more about GSRC, you can go to our website at www.globalsimracingchannel.com or on Twitter at GSR Channel or Facebook at facebook.com/globalsimracingchannel. Thanks to Eric Ekholm, who provides us with a lot of our music. You can find his music not only here on GSRC, but in TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes, and Spotify. If you like our music, tell him where you heard it at ericekholm.com. Also, thank you to Dexter Britton. Dexter provides us with additional music and has a lot of great stuff with NASA, TED Talks, and even McLaren. Listen or buy his music at dexterbritton.co.uk. Our next race is at Watkins Glen on October 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern. So if you're looking to follow the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series, look to then. Our next broadcast, however, is with the Blondies MX5 World Tour, which is at Road Atlanta on October 5th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Until then, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you on the track.